news of Christ to all the people groups of the world, and I see a far greater hunger overseas.
Welcome to the Reality Revolution. I'm your host, Brian Scott. And today, by popular request from many people in the group, I'm going to read the first portion of the book of Enoch, the Book of Watchers. Part of this channel is a search for deeper understanding. Oftentimes, this leads beyond the Bible itself. Even in our attempts to fully understand the Bible, we must go beyond the book. And as we encounter references to social conditions, cultural practice, and even other writings mentioned within the scriptures, we are called to investigate and expand our knowledge in order to fully appreciate the context, other writings, knowledge within the and cultural significance of what is being taught. Thus, to fully understand the Bible, we are necessarily drawn to sources outside the Bible. These sources add to the historical, social, or theological understanding of biblical times. As our view becomes more macrocosmic, we see the panoramic setting and further understand the full truth with the scriptures. Yet in the case of Enoch, we are not going beyond the Bible. We are simply going beyond our Bible. The book of Enoch is contained in the Bible of the Ethiopic Christian Church. To lead us to sources of information outside of our Protestant and Catholic Bibles, we must know which books were popular and important at the time the Bible was being written. There are several books mentioned in the Bible which are not included in our Bible. They are not spiritual quote-unquote canon either, because they were not available at the time the canon was originally adopted, or at the time they were not considered inspired. There are lots of apocrypha and books like this. Of all the books quoted, paraphrased, or referred to in the Bible, the book of Enoch has influenced the writers of the Bible as few others have. Even more extensively than in the Old Testament, the writers of the New Testament were frequently influenced by other writings, including the book of Enoch. I cannot give you a judgment as to the validity or worth of the book of Enoch, but it is inspiring to read and very interesting. It's a meaningful question. Is not the non-canonical book that most influenced the thought and theology of the writers of the New Testament worth further research and contemplation? The book of Enoch was once cherished by Jews and Christians alike. It is read in certain Coptic Christian churches in Ethiopia. Most scholars date the book of Enoch to sometime during the 2nd century BC. We do not know what earlier oral tradition, if any, the book contains. Enoch was considered inspired and authentic by certain Jewish sects of the 1st century BC and remained popular for at least 500 years. The earliest Ethiopian text was apparently derived from a Greek manuscript of the book of Enoch, which itself was a copy of an earlier text. The original was apparently written in the Semitic language, now thought to be Aramaic. There was a time that it was assumed that it was written after the Christian era. However, recent discoveries of copies of the book among the Dead Sea Scrolls found at Qumran prove the book was in existence before the time of Jesus Christ. These scrolls forced a closer look and reconsideration. It became obvious that the New Testament did not influence the book of Enoch. On the contrary, the book of Enoch influenced the New Testament. The 1st century Christians accepted the book of Enoch as inspired, if not authentic. They relied on it to understand the origin and purpose of many things, from angels to wind, sun, and stars. In fact, many of the key concepts used by Jesus Christ himself seem directly connected to terms and ideas in the book of Enoch. The theories regarding the authenticity of Enoch vary widely. Some believe Enoch is midrash, that is, an elaboration on a biblical story. In this case, it is suggested that Enoch expands Genesis chapter 6. Another more controversial theory has Enoch predating the Genesis story. Like the book of Enoch, Genesis seems to have several authors with stories intertwined. We've talked about this with the J, E, and P manuscripts in our discussion on Neville Goddard. At best, I have found that the book of Enoch was considered scripture in the Epistle of Barnabas, and by many of the early church fathers such as Athenagoras, Clement of Alexandria, Irenaeus, and Tertullian, who wrote that the book of Enoch had been rejected by the Jews because it purportedly contained prophecies pertaining to Christ. Those that are interested in magic will find Enoch absolutely critical reading, because a lot of times you'll see references in magic spells and magic discussions that come directly from Enoch. And because of that, there is a Christian sect that sees the book of Enoch as evil and is very much against it. As I suppose there are going to be people in the comments saying that this is a book that's inspired by the Antichrist. The first part of the book of Enoch describes the fall of the Watchers, the angels who fathered the angel-human hybrids called Nephilim. The remainder of the book describes Enoch's revelations and his visits to heaven in the form of travels, visions, and dreams. The book consists of 5 distinct major sections. First, the book of Watchers. Second, the book of Parables of Enoch. Third, the astronomical book. Fourth, the book of dream visions. And fifth, the epistle of Enoch. Most scholars believe that these 5 sections were originally independent works. So we are going to read the first section. And it's just fun to listen to. It's fun to read, and it's super fascinating. And if you have not read the book of Enoch, you're going to be in for a surprise. Even if you don't necessarily believe in this stuff, it is very interesting and exciting literature. What we know about Enoch is he was the great-grandfather of Noah. Enoch contains unique material on the origins of supernatural demons and giants, why some angels fell from heaven, an explanation of why the Great Flood was morally necessary, and prophetic exposition of the 1,000-year reign of the Messiah. The Book of Enoch, Section 1. The Book of the Watchers. Chapter 1. The words of the blessing of Enoch, with which he blessed the elect and righteous, who will be living in the day of tribulation, when all the wicked and godless are to be removed. And he took up his parable and spoke. Enoch, a righteous man, whose eyes were opened by God, saw the vision of the Holy One in the heavens, which the angels showed me. And from them I heard everything, and from them I understood as I saw, but not for this generation, but for a remote one which is to come. Concerning the elect I spoke, and took up my parable concerning them. The Holy Great One will come out from his dwelling, and the eternal God will tread upon the earth, even on Mount Sinai, and appear from his camp, and appear in the strength of his might from the heaven of heavens. And all will be smitten with fear, and the watchers will quake, and great fear and trembling will seize them unto the ends of the earth. And the high mountains will be shaken, and the high hills will be made low, and will melt like wax before the flame. And the earth will be wholly rent in sunder, and all that is upon the earth will perish, and there will be a judgment upon all men. But with the righteous he will make peace, and will protect the elect, and mercy will be upon them, and they will all belong to God, and they will be prospered, and they will all be blessed, and he will help them all, and light will appear unto them, and he will make peace with them. And behold, he comes with tens of thousands of his holy ones to execute judgment upon all, and to destroy all the ungodly, and to convict all flesh of all the works of their ungodliness which they have ungodly committed, and of all the hard things which ungodly sinners have spoken against him. Chapter 2. Observe, you, everything that takes place in the heaven, how they do not change their orbits, and the luminaries which are in the heaven, how they all rise and set in order, each in its season, and transgress not against their appointed order. Behold you the earth, and give heed to the things which take place upon it, from first to last, how steadfast they are, how none of the things upon earth change, but all the works of God appear to you. Behold, the summer and winter, how the whole earth is filled with water, and clouds and dew and rain lie upon it. Chapter 3. Observe and see how in the winter all the trees seem as though they had withered and shed all their leaves, except 14 trees, which do not lose their foliage, but retain the old foliage from 2 to 3 years until the new comes. Chapter 4. And again, observe you the days of summer, how the sun is above the earth, over against it. And you seek shade and shelter by reason of the heat of the sun. And the earth also burns with growing heat, and so you cannot tread on the earth or on a rock by reason of its heat. Chapter 5. Observe you how the trees cover themselves with green leaves and bear fruit. For what reason give you heed and know with regard to all his works, and recognize how he that lives forever has made them so. And all his works go on like this from year to year forever, and all the tasks which they accomplish for him, and their tasks change not, but according as God has ordained so it is done. And behold, how the sea and the rivers in like manner accomplish and change not their tasks from his commandments. But you have not been steadfast, nor done the commandments of the Lord, but you have turned away and spoken proud and hard words with your impure mouths against his greatness. O you hard-hearted, you will find no peace, therefore will you execrate your days, and the years of your life will perish, and the years of your destruction will be multiplied in eternal execration, and you will find no mercy. In those days you will make your names an eternal execration unto all the righteous, and by you will all who curse, and all the sinners and godless will imprecate by you, and for you, the godless, there will be a curse. And all the righteous will rejoice, and there will be forgiveness of sins, and every mercy and peace and forbearance. There will be salvation unto them, a goodly light, and for all of you sinners, there will be no salvation, but on you will abide a curse. But for the elect there will be light and joy and peace, and they will inherit the earth. And then there will be bestowed upon the elect wisdom, and they will all live and never again sin, either through ungodliness or through pride. But they who are wise will be humble, and they will not again transgress, nor will they sin all the days of their life, nor will they die of the divine anger or wrath. But they will complete the number of the days of their life, and their lives will be increased in peace, and the years of their joy will be multiplied in eternal gladness and peace all the days of their life. Chapter 6. And it came to pass, when the children of men had multiplied, that in those days were born unto them beautiful and comely daughters. And the angels, the children of the heavens, saw and lusted after them, and said to one another, Come, let us choose us wives from among the children of the men, and beget us children. And Semjaza, who was their leader, said unto them, I fear you will not indeed agree to do this deed, and I alone will have to pay the penalty of a great sin. And they all answered him and said, Let us all swear an oath, and all bind ourselves by mutual imprecations, not to abandon this plan, but to do this thing. Then swore they all together, and bound themselves by mutual imprecations upon it. And they were in all 200 who descended in the days of Jared on the summit of Mount Hermon. And they called it Mount Hermon because they had sworn and bound themselves by mutual imprecations upon it. And these are the names of their leaders: Samlazaz, their leader, Arikibah, Ramael, Kokabiel, Tamlal, Ramlal, Danel, Ezekiel, Asael, Armaros, Batarel, Antanel, Zakael, Samsapiel, Satarel, Turel, Jomjael, Sarael. These are the chiefs of tens. Chapter 7. And all the others together with them took unto themselves wives, and each chose for himself one, and they began to go in unto them, and to defile themselves with them, and they taught them charms, and enchantments, and the cutting of roots, and made them acquainted with plants, and they became pregnant, And they bare great giants, whose height was 3,000 ells, who consumed all the acquisitions of men. And when men could no longer sustain them, the giants turned against them and devoured mankind. And they began to sin against birds and beasts and reptiles and fish, and to devour one another's flesh and drink the blood. Then the earth laid accusation against the lawless ones. Chapter 8. And Azazel taught men to make swords and knives and shields and breastplates, and made known to them the metals of the earth, and the art of working them, and bracelets and ornaments, and the use of antimony, and the beautifying of the eyelids, and all kinds of costly stones, and all coloring tinctures. And there arose much godlessness, and they committed fornication, and they were led astray, and became corrupt in all their ways. Semjaza taught enchantments and root cuttings, Armoros the resolving of enchantments, Barakijal taught astrology, Kokabel the constellations, Ezekiel the knowledge of the clouds, Arakael the signs of the earth, Shamshael the signs of the sun, and Sarael the course of the moon. And as men perished, they cried, and their cry went up to heaven. Chapter 9. And then Mikael, Uriel, Raphael, and Gabriel looked down from heaven, and saw much blood being shed upon the earth, and all lawlessness being wrought upon the earth. And they said one to another, the earth made without inhabitant cries the voice of their crying up to the gates of heaven. And now to you, the holy ones of heaven, the souls of men make their suit, saying, bring our cause before the Most High. And they said to the Lord of the ages, Lord of lords, God of gods, King of kings, and God of the ages, the throne of your glory stands unto all the generations of the ages, and your name holy and glorious and blessed unto all the ages. You have made all things, and have the power over all things, and all things are naked and open in your sight, and you see all things, and nothing can hide itself from you. You see what Azazel has done, who has taught all unrighteousness on earth, and revealed the eternal secrets which were preserved in heaven, which men were striving to learn. And Semjaza, to whom you have given authority to bear rule over his associates, and they have gone to the daughters of men upon the earth, and have slept with the women, and have defiled themselves, and revealed to them all kinds of sins. And the women have borne giants, and the whole earth has thereby been filled with blood and unrighteousness. And now behold, the souls of those who have died are crying, and make their suit to the gates of heaven, and their lamentations have ascended, and cannot cease because of the lawless deeds which are wrought on the earth. And you know all things before they come to pass, and you see these things, and you do suffer them, and you do not say to us what we are to do to them in regard to these. Chapter 10. Then said the Most High, the Holy and Great One, spoke, and sent Uriel to the son of Lamech, and said to him, go to Noah, and tell him, in my name hide yourself, and reveal to him the end that is approaching, that the whole earth will be destroyed, and a deluge is about to come upon the whole earth, and will destroy all that is on it. And now instruct him that he may escape, and his seed may be preserved for all the generations of the world. And again the Lord said to Raphael, blind Azazel hand and foot, and cast him into the darkness, and make an opening in the desert, which is in Dudael, and cast him therein, and place upon him rough and jagged rocks, and cover him with darkness, and let him abide there forever, and cover his face, that he may not see light. And on the day of the great judgment he will be cast into the fire, and heal the earth which the angels have corrupted, and proclaim the healing of the earth, that they may heal the plague, and that all the children of men may not perish, through all the secret things that the watchers have disclosed and have taught their sons. And the whole earth has been corrupted through the works that were taught by Azazel. To him ascribe all sin. And to Gabriel said the Lord, proceed against the bastards and the reprobates, and against the children of fornication, and destroy the children of fornication, and the children of the watchers from among men, and cause them to go out, send them one against the other, that they may destroy each other in battle. For length of days will they not have, and no request that they, i.e. their fathers, make of you, will be granted unto their fathers on their behalf. For they hope to live an eternal life, and that each one of them will live 500 years. And the Lord said unto God, Go behind Semjaza and his associates, who have united themselves with women, so as to have defiled themselves with them in all their uncleanness. And when their sons have slain one another, and they have seen the destruction of their beloved ones, bind them fast for 70 generations in the valleys of the earth, until the day of their judgment and of their consummation, until the judgment that is forever and ever is consummated. In those days they will be led off to the abyss of fire, and to the torment and the prison in which they will be confined forever. And whosoever will be condemned and destroyed will from then on be bound together with them to the end of all generations, and destroy all the spirits of the reprobate and the children of the watchers, because they have wronged mankind. Destroy all wrong from the face of the earth, and let every evil work come to an end. And let the plant of righteousness and truth appear. And it will prove a blessing. The works of righteousness and truth will be planted in truth and joy forevermore. And then will all the righteous escape, and will live until they beget thousands of children in all the days of their youth. In their old age will they complete in peace. And then will the whole earth be tilled in righteousness, and will all be planted with trees and be full of blessing. And all desirable trees will be planted on it, and they will plant vines on it, and the vine which they plant thereon will yield wine in abundance. And as for all the seed which is sown thereon, each measures of it will bear 1,000, and each measure of olives will yield 10 presses of oil. And you will cleanse the earth from all oppression, and from all unrighteousness, and from all sin, and from all godlessness, and all the uncleanness that is wrought upon the earth destroy from off the earth. And all the children of men will become righteous, and all nations will offer adoration and will praise me, and all will worship me. And the earth will be cleansed from all defilement, and from all sin, and from all punishment, and from all torment. And I will never again send them upon it from generation and generation and forever. Chapter 11. And in those days I will open the store chambers of blessing which are in the heaven, so as to send them down upon the earth over the work and labor of the children of men. And truth and peace will be associated together throughout all the days of the world, and throughout all the generations of men. Chapter 12. Before these things Enoch was hidden, and no one of the children of men knew where he was hidden, and where he dwelt, and what had become of him. And his activities had to do with the watchers, and his days were with the holy ones. And I, Enoch, was blessing the Lord of majesty, and the King of the ages, and the watchers called me, Enoch the scribe, and said to me, Enoch, you scribe of righteousness, go declare to the watchers of the heaven, who have left the high heaven, the holy eternal place, and have defiled themselves with women, have done as the children of earth do, and have taken unto themselves wives. You have wrought great destruction on the earth, and you will have no peace nor forgiveness of sin. And inasmuch as they delight themselves in their children, the murder of their beloved ones will they see, and over the destruction of their children will they lament, and will make supplication unto eternity, but mercy and peace will you not attain. Chapter 13. And Enoch went and said, Azazel, you will have no peace. A severe sentence has gone out against you to put you in bonds, and you will not have toleration nor request granted to you because of the unrighteousness which you have taught, and because of all the works of godlessness and unrighteousness and sin which you have shown to men. Then I went and spoke to them all together, and they were all afraid, and fear and trembling seized them. And they besought me to draw up a petition for them, that they might find forgiveness, and to read their petition in the presence of the Lord of heaven. For him that point forward they could not speak with him, nor lift up their eyes to heaven for shame of their sins for which they had been condemned. Then I wrote out their petition and the prayer in regard to their spirits and their deeds individually and in regard to their requests, that they should have forgiveness and length. And I went off and sat down at the waters of Dan, in the land of Dan, to the south of the west of Hermon. I read their petition until I fell asleep. And behold, a dream came to me, and visions fell down upon me. And I saw visions of chastisement, and a voice came bidding me to tell it to the sons of heaven and reprimand them. And when I awaked, I came unto them, and they were all sitting gathered together, weeping in Abel's jail, which is between Lebanon and Sennacer, with their faces covered. And I recounted before them all the visions which I had seen in sleep, and I began to speak the words of righteousness and to reprimand the heavenly watchers. Chapter 14. The book of the words of righteousness and of the reprimand of the eternal watchers, in accordance with the command of the Holy Great One in the vision, I saw in my sleep that I will now say, with the tongue of flesh and with the breath of my mouth, which the Great One has given to men to converse therewith and to understand with the heart. As he has created and given to man the power of understanding the word of wisdom, so has he created me also and given me the power of reprimanding the watchers, the children of heaven. I wrote out your petition, and in my vision it appeared like this, that your petition will not be granted unto you throughout all the days of eternity, and that judgment has been finally passed upon you. Yea, your petition will not be granted unto you. And from now on you will not ascend into heaven unto all eternity. And in bonds of the earth the decree has gone out to bind you for all the days of the world, and that previously you will have seen the destruction of your beloved sons, and you will have no pleasure in them, but they will fall before you by the sword, and your petition on their behalf will not be granted, nor yet on your own, even though you weep and pray and speak all the words contained in the writing which I have written. And the vision was shown to me like this. Behold, in the vision clouds invited me, and a mist summoned me, and the course of the stars and the lightnings sped towards me. And in the winds in the vision caused me to fly, and lifted me upward, and bore me into heaven. And I went in until I drew nigh to a wall which is built of crystals, and surrounded by tongues of fire, and it began to affright me. And I went into the tongues of fire, and drew nigh to a large house which was built of crystals. And the walls of the house were like tessellated floor made of crystals, and its groundwork was of crystal. Its ceiling was like the path of the stars and the lightnings, and between them was fiery cherubim, and their heaven was clear as water. A flaming fire surrounded the walls, and its portals blazed with fire. And I entered into that house, and it was hot as fire and cold as ice. There were no delights of life therein. Fear covered me, and trembling got hold upon me. And as I quaked and trembled, I fell upon my face. And I beheld a vision, and behold, there was a second house greater than the former, and the entire portal stood open before me, and it was built of flames of fire. And in every respect it so excelled in splendor and magnificence and extent that I cannot describe to you its splendor and its extent. And its floor was of fire, and above it were lightnings and the path of the stars, and its ceiling also was flaming fire. And I looked, and saw therein a lofty throne. Its appearance was as crystal, and the wheels thereof as the shining sun. And there was the vision of cherubim, and from underneath the throne came streams of flaming fire, so that I could not look thereon. And the great glory sat thereon, and his raiment shone more brightly than the sun, and was whiter than any snow. None of the angels could enter, and could behold his face by reason of the magnificence and glory, and no flesh could behold him. The flaming fire was around him, and a great fire stood before him, and none around could draw nigh him. 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him, yet he needed no counselor. And the most holy ones were nigh to him, did not leave by night nor depart from him. And until then I had been prostrate on my face, trembling, and the Lord called me with his own mouth and said to me, Come here, Enoch, and hear my word. And one of the holy ones came to me and waked me, and he made me rise up and approached the door, and I bowed my face downwards. Chapter 15. And he answered and said to me, and I heard his voice, Fear not, Enoch, you righteous man and scribe of righteousness, approach here and hear my voice. And go, say to the watchers of heaven, who have sent you to intercede for them. You should intercede for men, and not men for you. Why have you left the high, holy, and eternal heaven, and lain with women, and defiled yourselves with the daughters of men, and taken to yourselves wives, and done like the children of earth, and begotten giants as your sons? And though you are holy, spiritual, living the eternal life, you have defiled yourselves with the blood of women, and have begotten children with the blood of flesh. And as the children of men have lusted after flesh and blood, as those also who die and perish. Therefore have I given them wives also, they might impregnate them, and beget children by them, that nothing might be wanting to them on earth. But you were formerly spiritual, and living the eternal life, and immortal for all generations of the world. And therefore I have not appointed wives for you. For as for the spiritual ones of the heaven, in heaven is their dwelling. And now the giants, who are produced from the spirits and flesh, will be called evil spirits upon the earth, and on the earth will be their dwelling. Evil spirits have proceeded from their bodies, because they are born from men, and from the holy watchers is their beginning and primal origin. They will be evil spirits on earth, and evil spirits will they be called. As for the spirits of heaven, in heaven will be their dwelling, but as for the spirits of the earth, which were born upon the earth will be their dwelling. And the spirits of the giants afflict, oppress, destroy, attack, do battle, and work destruction on the earth, and cause trouble. They take no food, but nevertheless hunger and thirst, and cause offenses. And these spirits will rise up against the children of men, and against the women, because they have proceeded from them. Chapter 16. From the days of the slaughter and destruction and death of the giants, from the souls of whose flesh the spirits have gone out, will destroy without incurring judgment. Therefore will they destroy until the day of the consummation, the great judgment in which the age will be consummated over the watchers and the godless, yea, will be wholly consummated. And now as to the watchers who have sent you to intercede for them, who had been previously in heaven, say to them, You have been in heaven, but all the mysteries had not yet been revealed to you, and you knew worthless ones, and these in the hardness of your hearts you have made known to the women, and through these mysteries women and men work much evil on earth. Say to them, therefore, you have no peace. Chapter 17. And they took and brought me to a place in which those who were there were like flaming fire, and when they wished they appeared as men. And they brought me to the place of darkness, and to a mountain, the point of whose summit reached to heaven. And I saw the places of the luminaries, and the treasuries of the stars, and of the thunder, and in the uttermost depths, where were a fiery bow and arrows, and their quiver, and a fiery sword, and all the lightnings. And they took me to the living waters, and to the fire of the west, which receives every setting of the sun. And I came to a river of fire, in which the fire flows like water, and discharges itself into the great sea towards the west. I saw the great rivers, and came to the great river, into the great darkness, and went to the place where no flesh walks. I saw the mountains of the darkness of winter, and the place from where all the waters of the deep flow. I saw the mouths of all the rivers of the earth, and the mouth of the deep. Chapter 18. I saw the treasuries of all the winds. I saw how he had furnished with them the whole creation, and the firm foundations of the earth. And I saw the cornerstone of the earth. I saw the four winds which bear the earth, and the firmament of the heaven. And I saw how the winds stretch out the vaults of heaven, and have their station between heaven and earth. These are the pillars of the heaven. I saw the winds of heaven, which turn and bring the circumference of the sun, and all the stars to their setting. I saw the winds on the earth carrying the clouds. I saw the paths of the angels. I saw at the end of the earth the firmament of the heaven above. And I proceeded and saw a place which burns day and night, where there are 7 mountains of magnificent stones, 3 towards the east, and 3 towards the south. And as for those towards the east was of colored stone, and one of pearl, and one of jacinth, and those towards the south of red stone, but the middle one reached to heaven like the throne of God of alabaster, and the summit of the throne was of sapphire, and I saw a flaming fire. And beyond these mountains is a region at the end of the great earth. There the heavens were completed, and I saw a deep abyss with columns of heavenly fire, and among them I saw columns of fire fall, which were beyond measure, alike towards the height and towards the depth. And beyond that abyss I saw a place which had no firmament of the heaven above, and no firmly founded earth beneath it. There was no water upon it, and no birds, but it was a waste and horrible place. I saw there 7 stars like great burning mountains, and to me, when I inquired regarding them, the angel said, "This is the end of heaven and earth. This has become a prison for the stars and the host of heaven. And the stars which roll over the fire are they which have transgressed the commandments of the Lord in the beginning of their rising, because they did not come out at their appointed times. And he was angry with them, and bound them until the time when their guilt should be consummated, even for 10,000 years. Chapter 19. And Uriel said to me, "Here will stand the angels who have connected themselves with women, and their spirits, assuming many different forms, are defiling mankind, and will lead them astray into sacrificing to demons as gods. Here they will stand, until the day of the great judgment, in which they will be judged, until they are made an end of. And the women also of the angels who went astray will become sirens. And I, Enoch, alone saw the vision, the ends of all things, and no man will see as I have seen." Chapter 20. And these are the names of the holy angels who watch: Uriel, one of the holy angels who is over the world and over Tartarus; Raphael, one of the holy angels who is over the spirits of men; Raguel, one of the holy angels who takes vengeance on the world of the luminaries; Michael, one of the holy angels, to wit, he that is set over the best part of mankind and over chaos; Sorachael, one of the holy angels who is set over the spirits who sin in the spirit; Gabriel, one of the holy angels who is over paradise and the serpents and the cherubim; Remiel, one of the holy angels whom God set over those who rise. Chapter 21. And I proceeded to where things were chaotic, and I saw there something horrible. I saw neither a heaven above nor a firmly founded earth, but a place chaotic and horrible, and there I saw 7 stars of the heaven bound together in it, like great mountains, and burning with fire. Then I said, "For what sin are they bound, and on what account have they been cast in here?" Then said Uriel, one of the holy angels who was with me, and was chief over them, and said, "Enoch, why do you ask, and why are you eager for the truth? These are of the number of the stars of heaven, which have transgressed the commandment of the Lord, and are bound here until 10,000 years. The time entailed by their sins are consummated." And from there I went to another place, which was still more horrible than the former, and I saw a horrible thing: a great fire there, which burnt and blazed, and the place was cleft as far as the abyss, being full of great descending columns of fire. Neither its extent or magnitude could I see, nor could I conjecture. Then I said, "How fearful is the place, and how terrible to look upon!" Then Uriel answered me, one of the holy angels who was with me, and said unto me, "Enoch, why have you such fear and affright?" And I answered, "Because of this fearful place, and because of the spectacle of the pain." And he said unto me, "This place is the prison of the angels, and here they will be imprisoned forever." Chapter 22. And then I went to another place, the mountain of hard rock, and there was in it 4 hollow places, deep and wide and very smooth. How smooth are the hollow places, and deep and dark to look at! Then Raphael answered, one of the holy angels who was with me, and said unto me, "These hollow places have been created for this very purpose, that the spirits of the souls of the dead should assemble therein, yea, that all the souls of the children of men should assemble here. And these places have been made to receive them until the day of their judgment, and until their appointed period, till the period appointed, until the great judgment comes upon them. I saw the spirit of a dead man walking suit, and his voice went out to heaven and made suit. And I asked Raphael the angel who was with me, and I said unto him, "The spirit which makes suit, whose is it, whose voice goes out and makes suit to heaven? And he answered me, saying, This is the spirit which went out from Abel, whom his brother Cain slew. And he makes his suit against him until his seed is destroyed from the face of the earth, and his seed is annihilated from among the seed of men. Then I asked regarding it, and regarding all the hollow places, why is one separated from the other? And he answered me and said unto me, These three have been made that the spirits of the dead might be separated, and such a division has been made for the spirits of the righteous, in which there is the bright spring of water, and such has been made for sinners when they die and are buried in the earth, and judgment has not been executed on them in their lifetime. Here their spirits will be set apart in this great pain until the great day of judgment, and punishment and torment of those who curse forever, and retribution for their spirits. There he will bind them forever, and such a division has been made for the spirits of those who make their suit, who make disclosures concerning their destruction, when they were slain in the days of sinners. Such has been made for the spirits of men who were not righteous, but sinners, who were complete in transgression, and of the transgressors they will be companions, but their spirits will not be slain in the day of judgments, nor will they be raised from there. Then I blessed the Lord of glory, and said, Blessed be my Lord, the Lord of righteousness, who rules forever. Chapter 23. From there I went to another place to the west, of the ends of the earth, and I saw a burning fire which ran without resting, and paused not from its course day or night, but ran regularly. And I asked, saying, What is this which rests not? Then Raguel, one of the holy angels who was with me, answered me and said unto me, This course of fire which you have seen is the fire in the west, which persecutes all the luminaries of heaven. Chapter 24. And from there I went to another place of the earth, and he showed me a mountain range of fire, which burnt day and night. And I went beyond it, and saw 7 magnificent mountains, all differing each from the other, and the stones thereof were magnificent and beautiful, magnificent as a whole, of glorious appearance and fair exterior. 3 towards the east, one founded on the other, and 3 towards the south, one upon the other, and deep rough ravines, no one of which joined with any other. And the 7th mountain was in the midst of these, and it excelled them in height, resembling the seat of a throne, and fragrant trees encircled the throne, and among them was a tree such I had never yet smelt, neither was any among them, nor were others like it. It had a fragrance beyond all fragrance. And its leaves and blooms and wood wither not forever, and its fruit is beautiful, and its fruit resembles the dates of a palm. Then I said, How beautiful is this tree, and fragrant, and its leaves are fair, and its blooms very delightful in appearance. Then answered Michael, one of the holy and honored angels, who was with me, and was their leader. Chapter 25. And he said unto me, Enoch, why do you ask me regarding the fragrance of the tree? And why do you wish to learn the truth? Then I answered him, saying, I wish to know about everything, but especially about this tree. And he answered, saying, This high mountain, which you have seen, whose summit is like the throne of God, is his throne, where the Holy Great One, the Lord of glory, the eternal King, will sit, when he will come down to visit the earth with goodness. And as for the fragrant tree, no mortal is permitted to touch it until the great judgment, when he will take vengeance on all, and bring everything to its consummation forever. It will then be given to the righteous and holy. Its fruit will be for food to the elect. It will be transplanted to the holy place, to the temple of the Lord, the eternal King. Then they will rejoice with joy and be glad, and into the holy place will they enter. And its fragrance will be in their bones, and they will live a long life on earth, such as your fathers lived. And in their days will no sorrow or plague or torment or calamity touch them. Then I bless the God of glory, the eternal King, who has prepared such things for the righteous, and has created them and promised to give them. Chapter 26. And I went from there to the middle of the earth, and I saw a blessed place in which there were trees with branches, abiding in blooming, of a dismembered tree. And there I saw a holy mountain, and underneath the mountain to the east was a stream, and it flowed towards the south. And I saw towards the east another mountain high than this, and better them a deep and narrow ravine. In it also ran a stream underneath the mountain. And to the west thereof there was another mountain, lower than the former, and of small elevation. and a ravine deep and dry between them, and another deep and dry ravine was at the extremities of the 3 mountains, and all the ravines were deep and narrow, being formed of hard rock, and trees were not planted upon them. And I marveled at the rocks, and I marveled at the ravine, yea, I marveled very much. Chapter 27. Then I said, for what object is this blessed land which is entirely filled with trees, and this accursed valley between? Then Uriel, one of the holy angels who was with me, answered and said, this accursed valley is for those who are accursed forever. Here will all the accursed be gathered together who utter with their lips against the Lord unseemly words, and of his glory speak hard things. Here will they be gathered together, and here will be their place of judgment. In the last days there will be upon them the spectacle of righteous judgment in the presence of the righteous forever. Here will the merciful bless the Lord of glory, the eternal King. In the days of judgment over the former, they will bless him for the mercy in accordance with which he has assigned them their lot. Then I blessed the Lord of glory, and set out his glory, and lauded him gloriously. Chapter 28. And then I went towards the east into the midst of the mountain range of the desert, and I saw a wilderness, and it was solitary, full of trees and plants. And water gushed out from above, rushing like a copious watercourse which flowed towards the northwest. It caused clouds and dew to ascend on every side. Chapter 29. And then I went to another place in the desert, and approached to the east of this mountain range, and there I saw aromatic trees exhaling the fragrance of frankincense and myrrh, and the trees also were similar to the almond tree. Chapter 30. And beyond these I went afar to the east, and I saw another place, a valley full of water, and therein there was a tree, the color of fragrant trees such as the mastic. And on the sides of those valleys I saw fragrant cinnamon, and beyond these I proceeded to the east. Chapter 31. And I saw other mountains, and among them were groves of trees, and there flowed out of them nectar, which is called Zarara and Galbanum. And beyond these mountains I saw another mountain to the east of the ends of the earth, on which were aloe trees, and all the trees were full of stacked, being like almond trees, and one burnt it, it smelled sweeter than any fragrant odor. Chapter 32. And after these fragrant odors, as I looked towards the north over the mountains, I saw 7 mountains full of choice nard and fragrant trees and cinnamon and pepper. And then I went over the summits of all these mountains far towards the east of the earth, and passed above the Erythraean Sea, and went far from it, and passed over the angels Zotael. And I came to the garden of righteousness, and saw beyond those trees many large trees growing there, and of goodly fragrance, large, very beautiful and glorious, and the tree of wisdom, whereof they eat and know great wisdom. That tree is in height like the fir, and its leaves are like those of the carob tree, and its fruit is like the clusters of the vine, very beautiful, and the fragrance of the tree penetrates afar. Then I said, how beautiful is the tree, and how attractive is its look. Then Raphael, the holy angel, who was with me, and answered me and said, this is the tree of wisdom, of which your father old in years and your aged mother who were before you have eaten, and they learnt wisdom, and their eyes were opened, and they knew that they were naked, and they were driven out of the garden. Chapter 33. And from there I went to the ends of the earth, and saw there great beasts, and each differed from the other, and I saw birds also differing in appearance and beauty and voice, the one differing from the other. And to the east of those beasts I saw the ends of the earth, on which the heaven rests, and the portals of the heaven open. And I saw how the stars of heaven come out, and I counted the portals out of which they proceed, and wrote down all their outlets, of which individual star by itself, according to their number and their names, their courses, and their positions, and their times and their mouths. As Uriel, the holy angel who was with me, showed me, he showed all things to me, and wrote them down for me. Also their names he wrote for me, and their laws, and their companies. Chapter 34. And from there I went towards the north to the ends of the earth, and there I saw a great and glorious device at the ends of the whole earth. And here I saw 3 portals of heaven open in the heaven. Through each of them proceed north winds, When they blow, there is cold, hail, frost, snow, dew, and rain. And out of one portal they blow for good. But when they blow through the other two portals, it is with violence and affliction on the earth, and they blow with violence. Chapter 35. And from there I went towards the west to the ends of the earth, and saw there 3 portals of the heaven open, such as I had seen in the east, the same number of portals, and the same number of outlets. Chapter 36. And from there I went to the south to the ends of the earth, and saw there 3 open portals of heaven, and there came dew, rain, and wind. And from there I went to the east to the ends of the heaven, and saw here the 3 eastern portals of heaven open, and small portals above them. Through each of these small portals pass the stars of heaven, and run their course to the west on the path which is shown to them. And as often as I saw, I blessed always the Lord of glory, and I continued to bless the Lord of glory, who has wrought great and glorious wonders, to show the greatness of his work to the angels, and to spirits, and to men, that they might praise his work and all his creation, that they might see the work of his might, and praise the great work of his hands, and bless him forever. So this concludes the Book of the Watchers. And I have to say, from the first times that I read this, I don't remember it like I did in reading it now. We have a very angry and vindictive God that is willing to punish for eternity for the sins of these angels. And we have a story where these angels beg Enoch, please, just ask for our forgiveness, petition for our forgiveness, and God does not forgive them. It's interesting, he treats the earth sort of like a flat earth, so flat earthers probably love the Enoch. And the way that he talks about stars clearly shows a misunderstanding, perhaps, treating the stars as if they're small and not what they actually are. I don't know what to make of this. I think it's important historically to understand the source of some of these, and maybe this was created to further expand on an understanding of the great question, why would God destroy the earth? I'm sure that that question haunted many people of that day, and for there to be a story that sort of explains it, which is referenced in the Bible, the story of the giants, of the Nephilim. We have an expansion of that story. But I can tell you that when I am reading this, my higher self is pointing out all the little things that don't make sense. And so I think that part of this is inspired, that we cannot completely deny it, but part of this doesn't make sense. Perhaps there is some sort of symbolic analysis that could be done in the classic Neville way. When they asked Neville about this book, he said, it's quite beautiful, but I do not consider it to be an essential work of reading the Bible. So I'm more interested in your comments than what my analysis is, because I need to learn more about this. Obviously, I don't know. So what do you know about this mysterious book and its meanings? If this episode does well, and by request, I will read future sections of this book. We'll wait and see how you guys respond to it, as this is a little bit unusual for the channel. In any case, you can find all episodes of The Reality Revolution at therealityrevolution.com, and welcome to The Reality Revolution.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ياسين والقرآن الحكيم.
The Testaments of the 12 Patriarchs, translated by R.H. Charles, read by Christopher Glynn. The Testament of Reuben, the firstborn son of Jacob and Leah. 1. The copy of the Testament of Reuben. even the commands which he gave his sons before he died in the 125th year of his life. 2 years after the death of Joseph his brother, when Reuben fell ill, his sons and his sons' sons were gathered together to visit him. And he said to them, My children, behold, I am dying, and go the way of my fathers. And seeing there Judah and Gad and Asher his brethren, he said to them, Raise me up, that I may tell to my brethren and to my children what things I have hidden in my heart. For behold, now at length I am passing away. And he arose and kissed them, and said unto them, Hear, my brethren, and do ye, my children, give ear to Reuben your father in the commands which I give unto you. And behold, I call to witness against you this day the God of heaven, that ye walk not in the sins of youth and fornication, wherein I was poured out, and defiled the bed of my father Jacob. And I tell you, that he smote me with a sore plague in my loins for 7 months. And had not my father Jacob prayed for me to the Lord would have destroyed me. For I was 30 years old when I wrought the evil thing before the Lord, and for 7 months I was sick unto death. And after this I repented with set purpose of my soul for 7 years before the Lord. And wine and strong drink I drank not, and flesh entered not into my mouth, and I ate no pleasant food, but I mourned over my sin, for it was great, such as had not been in Israel. 2. And now hear me, my children, what things I saw concerning the 7 spirits of deceit when I repented. 7 spirits, therefore, are appointed against man, and they are the leaders in the works of youth. And 7 other spirits are given to him at his creation, that through them should be done every work of man. The first is the spirit of life, with which the constitution of man is created. The second is the sense of sight, with which ariseth desire. The third is the sense of hearing, with which cometh teaching. The fourth is the sense of smell, with which tastes are given to draw air and breath. The fifth is the power of speech, with which cometh knowledge. The sixth is the sense of taste, with which cometh the eating of meats and drinks, and by it strength is produced, for in food is the foundation of strength. The seventh is the power of procreation and sexual intercourse, with which through love of pleasure sins enter in. Wherefore it is the last in order of creation, and the first in that of youth, because it is filled with ignorance, and leadeth the youth as a blind man to a pit, and as a beast to a precipice. 3. Besides all these, there is an 8th spirit of sleep, with which is brought about the trance of nature and the image of death. With these spirits are mingled the spirits of error. First, the spirit of fornication is seated in the nature and in the senses. The second, the spirit of insatiableness in the belly. The third, the spirit of fighting in the liver and gall. The fourth is the spirit of obsequiousness and chicanery, that through officious attention one may be fair in seeming. The fifth is the spirit of pride, that one may be boastful and arrogant. The sixth is the spirit of lying, in perdition and jealousy to practice deceits and concealments from kindred and friends. The seventh is the spirit of injustice, with which are thefts and acts of rapacity, that a man may fulfill the desire of his heart. For injustice worketh together with the other spirits by the taking of gifts. And with all these, the spirit of sleep is joined, which is that of error and fantasy. And so perisheth every young man, darkening his mind from the truth, and not understanding the law of God, nor obeying the admonitions of his fathers, as befell me also in my youth. And now, my children, love the truth, and it will preserve you. Hear ye the words of Reuben your father. Pay no heed to the face of a woman, nor associate with another man's wife, nor meddle with affairs of womankind. For had I not seen Bilhah bathing in a covered place, I had not fallen into this great iniquity. For my mind, taking in the thought of the woman's nakedness, suffered me not to sleep until I had wrought the abominable thing. For while Jacob our father had gone to Isaac his father, when we were in Eder, near to Ephrath in Bethlehem, Bilhah became drunk and was asleep, uncovered in her chamber. Having therefore gone in and beheld nakedness, I wrought the impiety without her perceiving it, and leaving her sleeping, I departed. And forthwith an angel of God revealed to my father concerning my impiety. And he came and mourned over me, and touched her no more. 4. Pay no heed, therefore, my children, to the beauty of women, nor set your mind on their affairs, but walk in singleness of heart in the fear of the Lord, and expend labor on good works, and on study, and on your flocks, until the Lord give you a wife, whom he will, that ye suffer not as I did. For until my father's death I had not boldness to look in his face, or to speak to any of my brethren because of the reproach. Even until now my conscience causeth me anguish on account of my impiety. And yet my father comforted me much, and prayed for me unto the Lord, that the anger of the Lord might pass from me, even as the Lord showed. And thenceforth until now I have been on my guard, and sinned not. Therefore, my children, I say unto you, observe all things whatsoever I command you, and ye shall not sin. For a pit unto the soul is the sin of fornication, separating it from God, and bringing it near to idols, because it deceiveth the mind and understanding, and leadeth young men into Hades before their time. For many hath fornication destroyed, because though a man be old, or noble, or rich, or poor, he bringeth reproach upon himself with the sons of men, and derision with Belial. For ye heard regarding Joseph how he guarded himself from a woman, and purged his thoughts from all fornication, and found favor in the sight of God and men. For the Egyptian woman did many things unto him, and summoned magicians, and offered him love potions, but the purpose of his soul admitted no evil desire. Therefore the God of your fathers delivered him from every evil and hidden death. For if fornication overcomes not your mind, neither can Belial overcome you. 5. For evil are women, my children, and since they have no power or strength over man, they use wiles by outward attractions, that they may draw him to themselves. And whom they cannot bewitch by outward attractions, him they overcome by craft. For moreover concerning them, the angel of the Lord told me and taught me, that women are overcome by the spirit of fornication more than men. And in their heart they plot against men, and by means of their adornment they deceive first their minds, and by the glance of the eye instill the poison, and then through the accomplished act they take them captive. For a woman cannot force a man openly, but by a harlot's bearing she beguiles him. Flee therefore fornication, my children, and command your wives and your daughters that they adorn not their heads and faces to deceive the mind. For every woman who useth these wiles hath been reserved for eternal punishment. For thus they allured the watchers who were before the flood. For as these continually beheld them, they lusted after them, and they conceived the act in their mind. for they changed themselves into the shape of men, and appeared to them when they were with their husbands. And the women, lusting in their minds after their forms, gave birth to giants. For the watchers appeared to them as reaching even unto heaven. 6. Beware, therefore, of fornication. And if you wish to be pure in mind, guard your senses from every woman, and command the women likewise not to associate with men, that they also may be pure in mind. For constant meetings, even though the ungodly deed be not wrought, are to them an irremediable disease, and to us a destruction of Beliar and eternal reproach. For in fornication there is neither understanding nor godliness, and all jealousy dwelleth in the lust thereof. Therefore then I say unto you, ye will be jealous against the sons of Levi, and will seek to be exalted over them, but ye shall not be able. For God will avenge them, and ye shall die by an evil death. For to Levi God gave the sovereignty, and to Judah with him, and to me also, and to Dan and Joseph, that we should be for rulers. Therefore I command you to hearken to Levi, because he shall know the law of the Lord, and shall give ordinances for judgment, and shall sacrifice for all Israel, until the consummation of the times, as the anointed high priest, of whom the Lord spake. I adjure you by the God of heaven to do truth, each one to his neighbor, and to entertain love, each one for his brother. And draw ye near to Levi in humbleness of heart, that he may receive a blessing from his mouth. For he shall bless Israel and Judah, because him hath the Lord chosen to be king over all the nation. And bow down before his seed, for on our behalf it will die in wars, visible and invisible, and will be among you an eternal king. 7. And Reuben died, having given these commands to his sons. And they placed him in a coffin until they carried him up from Egypt, and buried him in Hebron, in the cave where his father was. The Testament of Simeon, the second of Jacob and Leah. 1. The copy of the words of Simeon, the things which he spake to his sons before he died, in the 120th year of his life, at which time Joseph his brother died. For when Simeon was sick, his sons came to visit him, and he strengthened himself, and sat up, and kissed them, and said, 2. Hearken, my children, to Simeon your father, and I will declare unto you what things I have in my heart. I was born of Jacob as my father's second son, and my mother Leah called me Simeon, because the Lord had heard her prayer. Moreover, I became strong exceedingly. I shrank from no achievement, nor was I afraid of aught. For my heart was hard, and my liver was immovable, and my bowels without compassion. Because valor also has been given from the Most High to men in soul and body. For in the time of my youth I was jealous in many things of Joseph, because my father loved him beyond all. And I set my mind against him to destroy him, because the prince of deceit sent forth the spirit of jealousy, and blinded my mind, so that I regarded him not as a brother, nor did I spare even Jacob my father. But his God, and the God of his fathers, sent forth his angel, and delivered him out of my hands. For when I went to Shechem to bring ointment for the flocks, and Reuben to Dothan, where were our necessaries and all our stores, Judah my brother sold him to the Ishmaelites. And when Reuben heard these things, he was grieved, for he wished to restore him to his father. But on hearing this, I was exceedingly wroth against Judah, in that he let him go away alive. And for 5 months I continued wrathful against him. But the Lord restrained me, and withheld from me the power of my hands. for my right hand was half withered for 7 days. And I knew, my children, that because of Joseph this had befallen me. And I repented and wept, and I besought the Lord God that my hand might be restored, and that I might hold aloof from all pollution and envy, and from all folly. For I knew that I had devised an evil thing before the Lord and Jacob my father, on account of Joseph my brother, in that I envied him. 3. And now, my children, hearken unto me, and beware of the spirit of deceit and envy. For envy ruleth over the whole mind of a man, and suffereth him neither to eat, nor to drink, nor to do any good thing. But it ever suggesteth to him to destroy him that he envieth. And so long as he that is envied flourisheth, he that envieth fadeth away. 2 years, therefore, I afflicted my soul with fasting in the fear of the Lord. And I learned that deliverance from envy cometh by the fear of God. For if a man flee to the Lord, the evil spirit runneth away from him, and his mind is lightened. And henceforth he sympathizeth with him whom he envied, and forgiveth those who are hostile to him, and so ceaseth from envy. 4. And my father asked concerning me, because he saw that I was sad. And I said unto him, I am pained in my liver, for I mourned more than they all, because I was guilty of the selling of Joseph. And when we went down into Egypt, and he bound me as a spy, I knew that I was suffering justly, and I grieved not. Now Joseph was a good man, and had the Spirit of God within him. Being compassionate and pitiful, he bore no malice against me, but loved me even as the rest of his brethren. Beware, therefore, my children, of all jealousy and envy, and walk in singleness of soul, and with good heart, keeping in mind Joseph, your father's brother, that God may give you also grace and glory and blessing upon your heads, even as he saw in Joseph's case. All his days he reproached us not concerning this thing, but loved us as his own soul, and beyond his own sons glorified us, and gave us riches and cattle and fruits. Do ye also, my children, love each one his brother with a good heart, and the spirit of envy will withdraw from you. For this maketh savage the soul, and destroyeth the body. It causeth anger and war in the mind, and stirreth up unto deeds of blood, and leadeth the mind into frenzy, and suffereth not prudence to act in men. Moreover, it taketh away sleep, and causeth tumult to the soul, and trembling to the body. For even in sleep some malicious jealousy, deluding him, gnawereth, and with wicked spirits disturbeth his soul, and causeth the body to be troubled, and waketh the mind from sleep in confusion. And as a wicked and poisonous spirit, so appeareth it to men. 5. Therefore was Joseph comely in appearance and goodly to look upon, because no wickedness dwelt in him. For some of the trouble of the spirit the face manifesteth. And now, my children, make your hearts good before the Lord, and your ways straight before men, and ye shall find grace before the Lord and men. Beware therefore of fornication, for fornication is mother of all evils, separating from God, and bringing near to Belial. For I have seen it inscribed in the writing of Enoch, that your sons shall be corrupted in fornication, and shall do harm to the sons of Levi with the sword. But they shall not be able to withstand Levi, for he shall wage the war of the Lord, and shall conquer all your hosts. And they shall be few in number, divided in Levi and Judah, and there shall be none of you for sovereignty, even as also our father prophesied in his blessings. 6. Behold, I have told you all things that I may be acquitted of your sin. Now, if ye remove from you your envy and all stiff-neckedness, as a rose shall my bones flourish in Israel, and as a lily my flesh in Jacob, and my odor shall be as the odor of Libanus, and as cedars shall holy ones be multiplied from me forever, and their branches shall stretch afar off. Then shall perish the seed of Canaan, and a remnant shall not be unto Amalek, and all the Cappadocians shall perish, and all the Hittites shall be utterly destroyed. Then shall fail the land of Ham, and all the people shall perish. Then shall all the earth rest from trouble, and all the world under heaven from war. Then the mighty one of Israel shall glorify Shem, for the Lord God shall appear on earth, and himself save men. Then shall all the spirits of deceit be given to be trodden under foot, and men shall rule over wicked spirits. Then shall I arise in joy, and will bless the Most High because of his marvelous works, because God hath taken a body and eaten with men, and saved men. 7. And now, my children, obey Levi and Judah, and be not lifted up against these two tribes, for from them shall arise unto you the salvation of God. For the Lord shall raise up from Levi as it were a high priest, and from Judah as it were a king, God and man. He shall save all the Gentiles and the race of Israel. Therefore I give you these commands, that ye also may command your children, that they may observe them throughout their generations. 8. And when Simeon had made an end of commanding his sons, he slept with his fathers, being 120 years old. And they laid him in a wooden coffin to take up his bones to Hebron. And they took them up secretly during a war of the Egyptians. For the bones of Joseph the Egyptians guarded in the tombs of the kings. For the sorcerers told them that on the departure of the bones of Joseph there should be throughout all the land darkness and gloom, and an exceeding great plague to the Egyptians, so that even with a lamp a man should not recognize his brother. 9. And the sons of Simeon bewailed their father, and they were in Egypt until the day of their departure by the hand of Moses. The Testament of Levi, the third son of Jacob and Leah. 1. The copy of the words of Levi, the things which he ordained unto his sons according to all that they should do, and what things should befall them until the day of judgment. He was sound in health when he called them to him, for it had been revealed to him that he should die. And when they were gathered together, he said to them, 2. I, Levi, was born in Haran, and I came with my father to Shechem. And I was young, about 20 years of age, when with Simeon I wrought vengeance on Hamor for our sister Dinah. And when I was feeding the flocks in Abel Maul, the spirit of understanding of the Lord came upon me, and I saw all men corrupting their way, and that unrighteousness had built for itself walls, and lawlessness sat upon towers. And I was grieving for the race of the sons of men, and I prayed to the Lord that I might be saved. Then there fell upon me a sleep, and I beheld a high mountain, and I was upon it. And behold, the heavens were opened, and an angel of God said unto me, Levi, enter. And I entered from the first heaven, and I saw there a great sea hanging. And further, I saw a second heaven, far brighter and more brilliant, for there was a boundless light also therein. And I said to the angel, Why is this so? And the angel said to me, Marvel not at this, for thou shalt see another heaven more brilliant and incomparable. And when thou hast ascended thither, thou shalt stand near the Lord, and shalt be his minister, and shalt declare his mysteries to men, and shall proclaim concerning him that shall redeem Israel. And by thee and Judah shall the Lord appear among men, saving every race of men. And from the Lord's portion shall be thy life, and he shall be thy field and vineyard, and fruits, gold, and silver. 3. Hear therefore regarding the heavens which have been shown to thee. The lowest is for this cause gloomy unto thee, in that it beholds all the unrighteous deeds of men. And it has fire, snow, and ice made ready for the day of judgment, in the righteous judgment of God. For in it are all the spirits of the retributions for vengeance on men. And in the second are the hosts of the armies which are ordained for the day of judgment, to work vengeance on the spirits of deceit and of Belial. And above them are the holy ones. And in the highest of all dwelleth the great glory, far above all holiness. In the heaven next to it are the archangels, who minister and make propitiation to the Lord for all the sins of ignorance of the righteous, offering to the Lord a sweet-smelling savour, a reasonable and a bloodless offering. And in the heaven below this are the angels who bear answers to the angels of the presence of the Lord. And in the heaven next to this are thrones and dominions, in which always they offer praise to God. When, therefore, the Lord looketh upon us, all of us are shaken, yea, the heavens and the earth and the abysses are shaken at the presence of his majesty. But the sons of men, having no perception of these things, sin and provoke the Most High. 4. Now therefore know that the Lord shall execute judgment upon the sons of men. Because when the rocks are being rent, and the sun quenched, and the waters dried up, and the fire cowering, and all creation troubled, and the invisible spirits melting away, and Hades taketh spoils through the visitations of the Most High, men will be unbelieving and persist in their iniquity. On this account, with punishment shall they be judged. Therefore the Most High hath heard thy prayer, to separate thee from iniquity, and that thou shouldst become to him a son and a servant and a minister of his presence. The light of knowledge shalt thou light up in Jacob, and as the sun shalt thou be to all the seed of Israel. And there shall be given to thee a blessing, and to all thy seed, until the Lord shall visit all the Gentiles in his tender mercies forever. And therefore there have been given to thee counsel and understanding, that thou mightst instruct thy sons concerning this. Because they that bless him shall be blessed, and they that curse him shall perish. 5. And thereupon the angel opened to me the gates of heaven, and I saw the holy temple, and upon a throne of glory the Most High. And he said to me, Levi, I have given thee the blessings of the priesthood until I come and sojourn in the midst of Israel. Then the angel brought me down to earth, and gave me a shield and a sword, and said to me, Execute vengeance on Shechem, because of Dinah thy sister, and I will be with thee, because the Lord hath sent me. And I destroyed at that time the sons of Hamor, as it is written in the heavenly tables. And I said to him, I pray thee, O Lord, tell me thy name, that I may call upon thee in a day of tribulation. And he said, I am the angel who intercedeth for the nation of Israel, that they may not be smitten utterly, for every evil spirit attacketh it. And after these things I awaked, and blessed the Most High, and the angel who intercedeth for the nation of Israel, and for all the righteous. 6. And when I was going to my father, I found a brazen shield. Wherefore also the name of the mountain is Aspis, which is near Gebel, to the south of Abillah. And I kept these words in my heart. And after this I counseled my father and Reuben my brother to bid the sons of Hamor not to be circumcised, for I was zealous because of the abomination which they had wrought on my sister. And I slew Shechem first, and Simeon slew Hamor. And after this my brothers came, and smote that city with the edge of the sword. And my father heard these things, and was wroth, for he was grieved in that they had received the circumcision, and after that had been put to death, and in his blessings he looked amiss upon us. For we sinned, because we done this thing against his will. And he was sick on that day. But I saw that the sentence of God was for evil upon Shechem, for they had sought to do to Sarah and Rebekah as they had done to Dinah our sister, but the Lord prevented them. And they persecuted Abraham our father when he was a stranger, and they vexed his flocks when they were big with young, and Eblaim, who was born in his house, they most shamefully handled. And thus they did to all strangers, taking away their wives by force, and they banished them. But the wrath of the Lord came upon them to the uttermost. 7. And I said to my father Jacob, By thee will the Lord despoil the Canaanites, and will give their land to thee and to thy seed after thee. For from this day forward shall Shechem be called a city of imbeciles. For as a man mocketh a fool, so did we mock them. Because also they wrought folly in Israel by defiling my sister. And we departed and came to Bethel. 8. And there again I saw a vision as the former, after we had spent there 70 days. And I saw 7 men in white raiment, saying unto me, Arise, put on the robe of the priesthood, and the crown of righteousness, and the breastplate of understanding, and the garment of truth, and the plate of faith, and the turban of the head, and the ephod of prophecy. And they severally carried these things, and put them on me, and said unto me, From henceforth become a priest of the Lord, thou and thy seed forever. And the first anointed me with holy oil, and gave me the staff of judgment. The second washed me with pure water, and fed me with bread and wine, even the most holy things, and clad me with a holy and glorious robe. The third clothed me with a linen vestment, like an ephod. The fourth put round me a girdle, like unto purple. The fifth gave me a branch of rich olive. The sixth placed a crown on my head. The seventh placed on my head a diadem of priesthood, and filled my hands with incense, that I might serve as priest to the Lord God. And they said to me, Levi, thy seed shall be divided into 3 offices, for a sign of the glory of the Lord who is to come. And the first portion shall be great, yea, greater than it shall none be. The second shall be in the priesthood. And the third shall be called by a new name, because a king shall arise in Judah, and shall establish a new priesthood, after the fashion of the Gentiles, to all the Gentiles. And his presence is beloved, as a prophet of the Most High, of the seed of Abraham our father. Therefore every desirable thing in Israel shall be for thee and for thy seed, and ye shall eat everything fair to look upon. And the table of the Lord shall thy seed apportion. And some of them shall be high priests and judges and scribes, for by their mouth shall the holy place be guarded. And when I awoke, I understood that this dream was like the first dream. And I hid this also in my heart, and told it not to any man upon the earth. 9. And after 2 days I and Judah went up with our father Jacob to Isaac, our father's father. And my father's father blessed me according to all the words of the visions which I had seen. And he would not come with us to Bethel. And when we came to Bethel, my father saw a vision concerning me, that I should be their priest unto God. And he rose up early in the morning and paid tithes of all to the Lord through me. And so we came to Hebron to dwell there. And Isaac called me continually to put me in remembrance of the law of the Lord, even as the angel of the Lord showed unto me. And he taught me the law of the priesthood, of sacrifices, whole burnt offerings, firstfruits, free will offerings, peace offerings. And each day he was instructing me, and was busied on my behalf before the Lord, and said to me, Beware of the spirit of fornication, for this shall continue, and shall by thy seed pollute the holy place. Take therefore to thyself a wife without blemish or pollution, while yet thou art young, and not of the race of strange nations. And before entering into the holy place, bathe, and when thou offerest the sacrifices, wash. And again, when thou finishest the sacrifice, wash of 12 trees having leaves, offer to the Lord, as Abraham taught me also. And of every clean beast and bird, offer a sacrifice to the Lord. And of all thy firstfruits and of wine, offer the first as a sacrifice to the Lord God. And every sacrifice thou shalt salt with salt. 10. Now therefore observe whatsoever I command you, children. For whatsoever things I have heard from my fathers, I have declared unto you. And behold, I am clear from your ungodliness and transgression which ye shall commit in the end of the ages against the Saviour of the world, Christ, acting godlessly, deceiving Israel, and stirring up against it great evils from the Lord. And ye shall deal lawlessly together with Israel, so he shall not bear with Jerusalem because of your wickedness. But the veil of the temple shall be rent, so as not to cover your shame. And ye shall be scattered as captives among the Gentiles, and shall be for reproach and for a curse there. For the house which the Lord shall choose shall be called Jerusalem, as is contained in the book of Enoch the righteous. 11. Therefore when I took a wife, I was 28 years old, and her name was Melchah. And she conceived and bare a son, and I called his name Gersom, for we were sojourners in our land. And I saw concerning him that he would not be in the first rank. And Kohath was born in the 35th year of my life, towards sunrise. And I saw in a vision that he was standing on high in the midst of all the congregation. Therefore I called his name Kohath, which is beginning of majesty and instruction. And she bare me a third son in the 40th year of my life. And since his mother bare him with difficulty, I called him Merari, that is, my bitterness, because he also was like to die. And Jochebed was born in Egypt in my 64th year, for I was renowned then in the midst of my brethren. 12. And Gersom took a wife, and she bare to him Lomni and Semei. And the sons of Kohath, Amram, Issachar, Hebron, and Oziel. And the sons of Merari, Mulai and Musis. And in the 94th year, Amram took Jochebed my daughter to him to wife, for they were born in one day, he and my daughter. 8 years old was I when I went into the land of Canaan, and 18 years when I slew Shechem, and at 19 years I became priest, and at 28 years I took a wife, and at 48 I went into Egypt. And behold, my children, ye are a third generation. In my 118th year, Joseph died. 13. And now, my children, I command you, Fear the Lord your God with your whole heart, and walk in simplicity according to all his law. And do ye also teach your children letters, that they may have understanding all their life, reading unceasingly the law of God. For every one that knoweth the law of the Lord shall be honored, and shall not be a stranger whithersoever he goeth. Yea, many friends shall he gain more than his parents, and many men shall desire to serve him and to hear the law from his mouth. Work righteousness, therefore, my children, upon the earth, that ye may have it as a treasure in heaven. And sow good things in your souls, that ye may find them in your life. But if ye sow evil things, ye shall reap every trouble and affliction. Get wisdom in the fear of God with diligence. For though there be a leading into captivity, and cities and lands be destroyed, and gold and silver, and every possession perish, the wisdom of the wise naught can take away, save the blindness of ungodliness, and the callousness that comes of sin. For if one keep oneself from these evil things, then even among his enemies shall wisdom be a glory to him, and in a strange country a fatherland, and in the midst of foes shall prove a friend. Whosoever teaches noble things and does them shall be enthroned with kings, as was also Joseph, my brother. 14. Therefore, my children, I have learned that at the end of the ages ye will transgress against the Lord, stretching out hands to wickedness against him, and to all the Gentiles shall ye become a scorn. For our father Israel is pure from the transgressions of the chief priests, who shall lay their hands upon the Saviour of the world. For as the heaven is purer in the Lord's sight than the earth, so also be ye, the lights of Israel, purer than all the Gentiles. But if ye be darkened through transgressions, what therefore will all the Gentiles do, living in blindness? Yea, ye shall bring a curse upon our race, because the light of the law, which was given for to lighten every man, this ye desire to destroy by teaching commandments contrary to the ordinances of God. The offerings of the Lord ye shall rob, and from his portion shall ye steal choice portions, eating them contemptuously with harlots. And out of covetousness ye shall teach the commandments of the Lord. Wedded women shall ye pollute, and the virgins of Jerusalem shall ye defile, and with harlots and adulteresses shall ye be joined. And the daughters of the Gentiles shall ye take to wife, purifying them with an unlawful purification. And your union shall be like unto Sodom and Gomorrah. And ye shall be puffed up because of your priesthood, lifting yourselves up against men, and not only so, but also against the commands of God. For ye shall contemn the holy things with jests and laughter. 15. Therefore the temple which the Lord shall choose shall be laid waste through your uncleanness, and ye shall be captives throughout all nations. And ye shall be an abomination unto them, and ye shall receive reproach and everlasting shame from the righteous judgment of God. And all who hate you shall rejoice at your destruction. And if you were not to receive mercy through Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob our fathers, not one of our seed should be left upon the earth. 16. And now I have learned that for 70 weeks ye shall go astray, and profane the priesthood and pollute the sacrifices. And ye shall make void the law, and set at naught the words of the prophets by evil perverseness. And ye shall persecute righteous men, and hate the godly. The words of the faithful shall ye abhor. And a man who reneweth the law in the power of the Most High ye shall call a deceiver. And at last ye shall rush upon him to slay him, not knowing his dignity, taking innocent blood through wickedness upon your heads. And your holy places shall be laid waste even to the ground because of him. And ye shall have no place that is clean, But ye shall be among the Gentiles a curse and a dispersion, until he shall again visit you, and in pity shall receive you through faith and water. 17. And whereas ye have heard concerning the 70 weeks, hear also concerning the priesthood. For in each jubilee there shall be a priesthood, and in the first jubilee the first who is anointed to the priesthood shall be great, and shall speak to God as to a father. And his priesthood shall be perfect with the Lord, and in the day of his gladness shall he arise for the salvation of the world. In the second jubilee, he that is anointed shall be conceived in the sorrow of beloved ones, and his priesthood shall be honored, and shall be glorified by all. And the third priest shall be taken hold of by sorrow, and the fourth shall be in pain, because unrighteousness shall gather itself against him exceedingly, and all Israel shall hate each one his neighbor. And the fifth shall be taken hold of by darkness. Likewise also the sixth and the seventh. And in the seventh shall be such pollution as I cannot express before men, for they shall know it who do these things. Therefore shall they be taken captive and become a prey, and their land and their substance shall be destroyed. And in the 5th week they shall return to their desolate country, and shall renew the house of the Lord. And in the 7th week shall become priests who are idolaters, adulterers, lovers of money, proud, lawless, lascivious, abusers of children, and beasts. 18. And after their punishment shall have come from the Lord, the priesthood shall fail. Then shall the Lord raise up a new priest, and to him all the words of the Lord shall be revealed. And he shall execute a righteous judgment upon the earth for a multitude of days. And his star shall arise in heaven as of a king, lighting up the light of knowledge as the sun the day, and he shall be magnified in the world. He shall shine forth as the sun upon the earth, and shall remove all darkness from under heavens. And there will be peace in all the earth. The heavens shall exult in his days, and the earth shall be glad, and the clouds shall rejoice, and the knowledge of the Lord shall be poured forth upon the earth as the water of the seas. And the angels of the glory of the presence of the Lord shall be glad in him. The heavens shall be opened, and from the temple of glory shall come upon him sanctification with the Father's voice, as from Abraham to Isaac. And the glory of the Most High shall be uttered over him, and the spirit of understanding and sanctification shall rest upon him in the water. For he shall give the majesty of the Lord to his sons in truth for evermore, and there shall none succeed him for all generations forever. And in his priesthood the Gentiles shall be multiplied in knowledge upon the earth, and enlightened through the grace of the Lord. In his priesthood shall sin come to an end, and the lawless shall cease to do evil, and the just shall rest in him. And he shall open the gates of paradise, and shall remove the threatening sword against Adam. And he shall give to the saints to eat from the tree of life, and the spirit of holiness shall be on them. And Beliar shall be bound by him, and he shall give power to his children to tread upon the evil spirits. And the Lord shall rejoice in his children, and be well pleased in his beloved ones forever. Then shall Abraham and Isaac and Jacob exult, and I will be glad, and all the saints shall clothe themselves with joy. 19. And now, my children, ye have heard all. Choose therefore for yourselves either the light or the darkness, either the law of the Lord or the works of Beliar. And his sons answered him, saying, Before the Lord we will walk according to his law. And their father said unto them, The Lord is witness, and his angels are witnesses, and ye are witnesses, and I am witness, concerning the word of your mouth. And his sons said unto him, We are witnesses. And thus Levi ceased commanding his sons, and he stretched out his feet on the bed, and was gathered to his fathers, after he had lived 137 years. And they laid him in a coffin, and afterwards they buried him in Hebron, with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The Testament of Judah, the fourth son of Jacob and Leah. 1. The copy of the words of Judah, what things he spake to his sons before he died. They gathered themselves together, therefore, and came to him, and he said to them, Hearken, my children, to Judah your father. I was the fourth son born to my father Jacob, and Leah my mother named me Judah, saying, I give thanks to the Lord, for he hath given me a fourth son also. I was swift in my youth, and obedient to my father in everything. And I honored my mother and my mother's sister. And it came to pass, when I became a man, that my father blessed me, saying, Thou shalt be a king, prospering in all things. 2. And the Lord showed me favor in all my works, both in the field and in the house. I know that I raced a hind and caught it, and prepared the meat for my father, and he did eat. And the roes I used to master in the chase, and overtake all that was in the plains. A wild mare I overtook and caught it and tamed it. I slew a lion and plucked a kid out of its mouth. I took a bear by its paw and hurled it down the cliff, and it was crushed. I outran the wild boar, and seizing it as I ran, I tore it in sunder. A leopard in Hebron leaped upon my dog, and I caught it by the tail and hurled it on the rocks, and it was broken in twain. I found a wild ox feeding in the fields, and seizing it by the horns, and whirling it round and stunning it, I cast it from me, and slew it. 3. And when the 2 kings of the Canaanites came sheathed in armor against our flocks, and much people with them, single-handed I rushed upon the king of Hazor, and smote him on the greaves, and dragged him down, and so I slew him. And the other, the king of Tappuah, as he sat upon his horse I slew, and so I scattered all his people. Achor, the king, a man of giant stature, I found, hurling javelins before and behind as he sat on horseback. And I took up a stone of 60 pounds weight, and hurled it, and smote his horse, and killed it. And I fought with this other for 2 hours, and I clave his shield in twain, and I chopped off his feet, and killed him. And as I was stripping off his breastplate, behold, 9 men his companions began to fight with me. And I wound my garment on my hand, and I slung stones at them, and killed 4 of them. And the rest fled. And Jacob my father slew Belasath, king of all the kings, a giant in strength, 12 cubits high. And fear fell upon them, and they ceased warring against us. Therefore my father was free from anxiety in the wars when I was with my brethren. For he saw in a vision concerning me that an angel of might followed me everywhere, that I should not be overcome. 4. And in the south there came upon us a greater war than that in Shechem, and I joined in battle array with my brethren, and pursued 1,000 men, and slew of them 200 men, and 4 kings. And I went up upon the wall, and I slew 4 mighty men. And so we captured Hazor, and took all the spoil. 5. On the next day we departed to Aratan, a city strong and walled and inaccessible, threatening us with death. But I and Gad approached on the east side of the city, and Reuben and Levi on the west. And they that were upon the wall, thinking that we were alone, were drawn down against us. And so my brothers secretly climbed up the wall on both sides by stakes, and entered the city, while the men knew it not. and we took it with the edge of the sword. And as for those who had taken refuge in the tower, we set fire to the tower, and took both it and them. And as we were departing, the men of Tappuah set upon our spoil, and, delivering it up to our sons, we fought with them as far as Tappuah. And we slew them, and burnt their city, and took as spoil all that was in it. 6. And when I was at the waters of Kozeba, the men of Jobel came against us to battle, and we fought with them and routed them. And their allies from Shiloh we slew, and we did not leave them power to come in against us. And the men of Machir came upon us the 5th day to seize our spoil, and we attacked them and overcame them in fierce battle. For there was a host of mighty men amongst them, and we slew them before they'd gone up the ascent. And when we came to their city, their women rolled upon us stones from the brow of the hill on which the city stood. And I and Simeon hid ourselves behind the town, and seized upon the heights, and destroyed this city also. 7. And the next day it was told us that the king of the city of Gaash with a mighty host was coming against us. I, therefore, and Dan feigned ourselves to be Amorites, and as allies went into their city. And in the depth of night our brethren came, and we opened to them the gates, and we destroyed all the men and their substance. And we took for a prey all that was theirs, and their 3 walls we cast down. And we drew near to Thamnah, where was all the substance of the hostile kings. Then, being insulted by them, I was therefore wroth, and rushed against them to the summit. And they kept slinging against me stones and darts. And had not Dan my brother aided me, they would have slain me. We came upon them therefore with wrath, and they all fled, and passing by another way, they besought my father, and he made peace with them. And we did to them no hurt, and they became tributary to us, and we restored to them their spoil. And I built Thamnah, and my father built Pabael. I was 20 years old when this war befell, and the Canaanites feared me and my brethren. 8. And I had much cattle, and I had for chief herdsman Iram the Adullamite. And when I went to him, I saw Parseba, king of Adullam, and he spake unto us, and he made us a feast. And when I was heated, he gave me his daughter Bathshua to wife. She bare me Er, and Onan, and Shelah, and 2 of them the Lord smote, for Shelah lived, and his children are ye. 9. And 18 years my father abode in peace with his brother Esau, and his sons with us, after that we came from Mesopotamia, from Laban. And when 18 years were fulfilled, in the 40th year of my life, Esau, the brother of my father, came upon us with a mighty and strong people. And Jacob smote Esau with an arrow, and he was taken up wounded on Mount Seir. And as he went, he died at Ananiram. And we pursued after the sons of Esau. Now they had a city with walls of iron and gates of brass, and we could not enter into it. And we encamped around and besieged it. And when they opened not to us in 20 days, I set up a ladder in the sight of all, and with my shield upon my head I went up, sustaining the assault of stones, upwards of 3 talents weight. And I slew 4 of their mighty men. And Reuben and Gad slew 6 others. Then they asked from us terms of peace, and having taken counsel with our father, we received them as tributaries. And they gave us 500 cores of wheat, 500 baths of oil, 500 measures of wine, until the famine, when we went down into Egypt. 10. After these things, my son Er took to wife Tamar from Mesopotamia, a daughter of Aram. Now Er was wicked, and he was in need concerning Tamar, because she was not of the land of Canaan. And on the 3rd night an angel of the Lord smote him, and he had not known her, according to the evil craftiness of his mother, for he did not wish to have children by her. In the days of the wedding feast, I gave Onan to her in marriage. And he also in wickedness knew her not, though he spent with her a year. And when I threatened him, he went in unto her, but he spilled the seed on the ground, according to the command of his mother, and he also died through wickedness. And I wished to give Shelah also to her, but his mother did not permit it, for she wrought evil against Tamar, because she was not of the daughters of Canaan, as she also herself was. 11. And I knew that the race of the Canaanites was wicked, but the impulse of youth blinded my mind. And when I saw her pouring out wine, owing to the intoxication of wine, I was deceived, and took her, although my father had not counseled it. And while I was away, she went and took for Shelah a wife from Canaan. And when I knew what she'd done, I cursed her in the anguish of my soul. And she also died through her wickedness, together with her sons. 12. And after these things, while Tamar was a widow, she heard after 2 years that I was going up to shear my sheep, and adorned herself in bridal array, and sat in the city Enaim by the gate. For it was a law of the Amorites that she who was about to marry should sit in fornication 7 days by the gate. Therefore, being drunk with wine, I did not recognize her, and her beauty deceived me through the fashion of her adorning. And I turned aside to her and said, Let me go in with thee. And she said, What wilt thou give me? And I gave her my staff, and my girdle, and the diadem of my kingdom in pledge. And I went in unto her, and she conceived. And not knowing what I had done, I wished to slay her. But she privily sent my pledges, and put me to shame. And when I called her, I heard also the secret words which I spoke when lying with her in my drunkenness, and I could not slay her, because it was from the Lord. For I said, Lest haply she did it in subtlety, having received the pledge from another woman. But I came not again near her while I lived, because I had done this abomination in all Israel. Moreover, they who were in the city said there was no harlot in the gate, because she came from another place and sat for a while in the gate, and I thought no one knew that I had gone in to her. And after this we came into Egypt to Joseph because of the famine. And I was 46 years old, and 73 years lived I in Egypt. 13. And now I command you, my children, hearken to Judah your father, and keep my sayings, to perform all the ordinances of the Lord, and to obey the commands of God, and walk not after your lusts, nor in the imaginations of your thoughts, in haughtiness of heart, and glory not in the deeds and strength of your youth, for this also is evil in the eyes of the Lord. Since I also gloried that in wars no comely woman's face ever enticed me, and reproved Reuben my brother concerning Bilhah, the wife of my father, the spirits of jealousy and fornication arrayed themselves against me, until I lay with Bashua the Canaanite and Tamar, who was espoused to my sons. For I said to my father-in-law, I will take counsel with my father, and so will I take thy daughter. And he was unwilling, but he showed me a boundless store of gold in his daughter's behalf, for he was a king. And he adorned her with gold and pearls, and caused her to pour out wine for us at the feast with the beauty of women. And the wine turned aside my eyes, and pleasure blinded my heart. And I became enamored of, and I lay with her, and transgressed the commandment of the Lord, and the commandment of my fathers. And I took her to wife. And the Lord rewarded me according to the imagination of my heart, insomuch as I had no joy in her children. 14. And now, my children, I say unto you, be not drunk with wine. For wine turneth the mind away from the truth, and inspires the passion of lust, and leadeth the eyes into error. For the spirit of fornication hath wine as a minister to give pleasure to the mind, for these two also take away the mind of man. For if a man drink wine to drunkenness, it disturbeth the mind with filthy thoughts, leading to fornication, and heateth the body to carnal union. And if the occasion of the lust be present, he worketh the sin, and is not ashamed. Such is the inebriated man, my children. For he who is drunken reverenceth no man. For lo, it made me also to err, so that I was not ashamed of the multitude in the city, in that before the eyes of all I turned aside unto Tamar. And I wrought a great sin, and I uncovered the covering of my son's shame. After I had drunk wine, I reverenced not the commandment of God, and I took a woman of Canaan to wife. For much discretion needeth the man who drinketh wine, my children. And herein is discretion in drinking wine. A man may drink so long as he preserveth modesty. But if he go beyond this limit, the spirit of deceit attacketh his mind, and it maketh the drunkard to talk filthily, and to transgress, and not to be ashamed, but even to glory in his shame, and to account himself honorable. 15. He that committeth fornication is not aware when he suffers loss, and is not ashamed when put to dishonor. For even though a man be a king, and commit fornication, he is stripped of his kingship by becoming the slave of fornication, as I myself also suffered. For I gave my staff, that is the stay of my tribe, and my girdle, that is my power, and my diadem, that is the glory of my kingdom. And indeed I repented of these things. Wine and flesh I ate not until my old age, nor did I behold any joy. And the angel of God showed me that forever do women bear rule over king and beggar alike. And from the king they take away his glory, and from the valiant man his might, and from the beggar even that little which is the stay of his poverty. 16. Observe therefore, my children, the right's limit in wine. For there are in it 4 evil spirits, of lust, of hot desire, of profligacy, of filthy lucre. If ye drink wine in gladness, be ye modest in the fear of God. For if in your gladness the fear of God departeth, then drunkenness ariseth, and shamelessness stealeth in. But if ye would live soberly, do not touch wine at all, lest ye sin in words of outrage, and in fightings and slanders, and transgressions of the commandments of God, and ye perish before your time. Moreover, wine revealeth the mysteries of God and men, even as I also revealed the commandments of God and the mysteries of Jacob my father to the Canaanitish woman Bathsheba, which God bade me not to reveal. And wine is a cause of both war and confusion. 17. And now I command you, my children, not to love money, nor to gaze upon the beauty of women, because for the sake of money and beauty I was led astray to Bathsheba the Canaanite. For I know that because of these 2 things shall my race fall into wickedness. For even wise men among my sons shall they mar, and shall cause the kingdom of Judah to be diminished, which the Lord gave me because of my obedience to my father. For I never caused grief to Jacob my father, for all things whatsoever he commanded, I did. And Isaac, the father of my father, blessed me to be king in Israel. And Jacob further blessed me in like manner. And I know that from me shall the kingdom be established. 18. And I know what evils ye will do in the last days. Beware therefore, my children, of fornication and the love of money, and hearken to Judah your father. For these things withdraw you from the law of God, and blind the inclination of the soul, and teach arrogance, and suffer not a man to have compassion upon his neighbor. They rob his soul of all goodness, and oppress him with toils and troubles, and drive away sleep from him. and devour his flesh. And he hindereth the sacrifices of God, and he remembereth not the blessing of God. He hearkeneth not to a prophet when he speaketh, and resenteth the words of godliness. For he is a slave of two contrary passions, and cannot obey God, because they have blinded his soul, and he walketh in the day as in the night. 19. My children, the love of money leadeth to idolatry, because when led astray through money, men name as gods those who are not gods, and it causeth him who hath it to fall into madness. For the sake of money I lost my children, and had not my repentance and my humiliation and the prayers of my father been accepted, I should have died childless. But the God of my fathers had mercy on me, because I did it in ignorance, and the prince of deceit blinded me. And I sinned as a man, and as flesh being corrupted through sins. And I learnt my own weakness, while thinking myself invincible. 20. Know therefore, my children, that two spirits wait upon man, the spirit of truth and the spirit of deceit. And in the midst is the spirit of understanding of the mind, to which it belongeth to turn whithersoever it will. And the works of truth and the works of deceit are written upon the hearts of men, and each one of them the Lord knoweth. And there is no time at which the works of men can be hid, for on the heart itself have they been written down before the Lord. And the Spirit of truth testifieth all things, and accuseth all. The sinner is burnt up by his own heart, and cannot raise his face to the judge. 21. And now, my children, I command you, love Levi, that ye may abide, and exalt not yourself against him, lest he be utterly destroyed. For to me the Lord gave the kingdom, and to him the priesthood, and he set the kingdom beneath the priesthood. To me he gave the things upon earth, and to him the things in the heavens. As the heaven is higher than the earth, so is the priesthood of God higher than the earthly kingdom, unless it falls away through sin from the Lord, and is dominated by the earthly kingdom. For the angel of the Lord said unto me, The Lord chose him rather than thee, to draw near to him, and to eat of his table, and to offer him the first fruits of the choice things of the sons of Israel. But thou shalt be king of Jacob, and thou shalt be amongst them as the sea. For as on the sea just and unjust are tossed about, some taken into captivity, while some are enriched, so also shall every race of men be in thee. Some shall be impoverished, being taken captive, and others grow rich by plundering the possessions of others. For the kings shall be as sea monsters. They shall swallow men like fishes. The sons and daughters of free men shall they enslave. Houses, lands, flocks, money shall they plunder. And with the flesh of many shall they wrongfully feed the ravens and the cranes. And they shall advance in evil, in covetousness uplifted. And there shall be false prophets like tempests, and they shall persecute all righteous men. 22. And the Lord shall bring upon them divisions one against another, and there shall be continual wars in Israel. And among men of another race shall my kingdom be brought to an end, until the salvation of Israel shall come, until the appearing of the God of righteousness, that Jacob and all the Gentiles may rest in peace. And he shall guard the might of my kingdom forever. For the Lord sware to me with an oath that he would not destroy the kingdom from my seed forever. 23. Now I have much grief, my children, because of your lewdness and witchcraft and idolatries which ye shall practice against the kingdom, following them that have familiar spirits, diviners, and demons of error. Ye shall make your daughters singing girls and harlots, and ye shall mingle in the abominations of the Gentiles. For which things' sake the Lord shall bring upon you famine and pestilence, death and the sword, beleaguering by enemies and reviling of friends, the slaughter of children, the rape of wives, the plundering of possessions, the burning of the temple of God, the laying waste of the land, the enslavement of yourselves among the Gentiles. And they shall make some of you eunuchs for their wives, until the Lord visit you, when with perfect heart ye repent and walk in all his commandments, and he bring you up from captivity among the Gentiles. 24. And after these things shall a star arise to you from Jacob in peace, and a man shall arise from thy seed, like the Sun of righteousness, walking with the sons of men in meekness and righteousness. And no sin shall be found in him. And the heavens shall be open unto him, to pour out the Spirit, even the blessing of the Holy Father. And he shall pour out the Spirit of grace upon you. And ye shall be unto him sons in truth. And he shall walk in his commandments, first and last, this branch of the Most High, and this fountain giving life unto all. Then shall the scepter of my kingdom shine forth, and from your root shall arise a stem, and from it shall grow a rod of righteousness to the Gentiles, to judge and to save all that call upon the Lord. 25. And after these things shall Abraham and Isaac and Jacob arise unto life, and I and my brethren shall be chiefs of the tribes of Israel. Levi first, I the second, Joseph third, Benjamin fourth, Simeon fifth, Issachar sixth, and so all in order. And the Lord blessed Levi, and the angel of the presence, me, the powers of glory, Simeon, the heaven, Reuben, the earth, Issachar, the sea, Zebulun, the mountains, Joseph, the tabernacle, Benjamin, the luminaries, Dan, Eden, Naphtali, the sun, Gad, the moon, Asher. And ye shall be the people of the Lord, and have one tongue. And there shall be no spirit of deceit of Beliar, for he shall be cast into the fire forever. And they who have died in grief shall arise in joy, and they who were poor for the Lord's sake shall be made rich, and they who were put to death for the Lord's sake shall awake to life. And the hearts of Jacob shall run in joyfulness, and the eagles of Israel shall fly in gladness, and all the people shall glorify the Lord forever. 26. Observe therefore, my children, all the law of the Lord, for there is hope for all them who hold fast unto his ways. And he said to them, Behold, I die before your eyes this day, 119 years old. Let no one bury me in costly apparel, nor tear open my bowels, for this shall they who are kings do, and carry me up to Hebron with you. And Judah, when he'd said these things, fell asleep. And his sons did according to all whatsoever he commanded them, and they buried him in Hebron with his fathers. The testament of Issachar, the fifth son of Jacob and Leah. 1. The copy of the words of Issachar. For he called his sons and said to them, Hearken, my children, to Issachar your father. Give ear to the words of him who is beloved of the Lord. I was born the fifth son to Jacob, by way of hire for the mandrakes. For Reuben my brother brought in mandrakes from the field, and Rachel met him and took them. And Reuben wept, and at his voice Leah my mother came forth. Now these mandrakes were sweet-smelling apples, which were produced in the land of Haran, below a ravine of water. And Rachel said, I will not give them to thee, but they shall be to me instead of children. For the Lord hath despised me, and I have not borne children to Jacob. Now there were 2 apples. And Leah said to Rachel, let it suffice thee that thou hast taken my husband. Wilt thou take these also? And Rachel said to her, Thou shalt have Jacob this night for the mandrakes of thy son. And Leah said to her, Jacob is mine, for I am the wife of his youth. But Rachel said, Boast not and vaunt not thyself, for he espoused me before thee, and for my sake he served our father 14 years. And had not craft increased on the earth, and the wickedness of men prospered, thou wouldst not now see the face of Jacob. 2. Then appeared to Jacob an angel of the Lord, saying, 2 children shall Rachel bear, inasmuch as she hath refused company with her husband, and hath chosen continency. And had not Leah my mother paid the 2 apples for the sake of his company, she would have borne 8 sons. For this reason she bare 6, and Rachel bare the 2. For on account of the mandrakes the Lord visited her. For he knew that for the sake of children she wished to company with Jacob, and not for lust or pleasure. For on the morrow also she again gave up Jacob. Because of the mandrakes, therefore, the Lord hearkened to Rachel. For though she desired them, she ate them not, but offered them in the house of the Lord, presenting them to the priest of the Most High, who was at that time. 3. When therefore I grew up, my children, I walked in uprightness of heart, and I became a husbandman for my father and my brethren, and I brought in fruits from the field according to their season. And my father blessed me, for he saw that I walked in rectitude before him, and I was not a busybody in my doings, nor envious and malicious against my neighbor. I never slandered anyone, nor did I censure the life of any man, walking as I did in singleness of eye. Therefore, when I was 35 years old, I took to myself a wife, for my labor wore away my strength, and I never thought upon pleasure with women, but owing to my toil, sleep overcame me. And my father always rejoiced in my rectitude, because I offered through the priest to the Lord all firstfruits, then to my father also. And the Lord increased 10,000-fold his benefits in my hands. And also Jacob my father knew that God aided my singleness. For on all the poor and oppressed I bestowed the good things of the earth, in singleness of my heart. 4. And now hearken to me, my children, and walk in singleness of your heart, for I have seen in it all that is well-pleasing to the Lord. The single-minded man coveteth not gold, he overreacheth not his neighbor, he longeth not after manifold dainties, he delighteth not in varied apparel, he doth not desire to live a long life, but only waiteth for the will of God. And the spirits of deceit have no power against him, for he looketh not on the beauty of women, lest he should pollute his mind with corruption. There is no envy in his thoughts, no malicious person maketh his soul to pine away, nor worry with insatiable desire in his mind. For he walketh in singleness of soul, and beholdeth all things in uprightness of heart, shunning eyes made evil through the error of the world, lest he should see the perversion of any of the commandments of the Lord. 5. Keep therefore, my children, the law of God, and get singleness, and walk in guilelessness, not playing the busybody with the business of your neighbor, but love the Lord and your neighbor. Have compassion on the poor and weak. Bow down your back unto husbandry, and toil in labors in all manner of husbandry, offering gifts to the Lord with thanksgiving. For with the first fruits of the earth will the Lord bless you, even as he blessed all the saints from Abel, even until now. For no other portion is given to you than of the fatness of the earth, whose fruits are raised by toil. For our father Jacob blessed me with the blessings of the earth and of firstfruits. And Levi and Judah were glorified by the Lord even among the sons of Jacob. For the Lord gave them an inheritance, and to Levi he gave the priesthood, and to Judah the kingdom. And do ye therefore obey them, and walk in the singleness of your father. For unto Gad hath it been given to destroy the troops that are coming upon Israel. 6. Know ye therefore, my children, that in the last times your sons will forsake singleness, and will cleave unto insatiable desire, and leaving guilelessness will draw near to malice, and forsaking the commandments of the Lord, they will cleave unto Belial. And leaving husbandry, they will follow after their own wicked devices, and they shall be dispersed among the Gentiles, and shall serve their enemies. And do you therefore give these commands to your children, that if they sin, they may the more quickly return to the Lord. For he is merciful, and will deliver them, even to bring them back into their land. 7. Behold, therefore, as ye see, I am 126 years old, and am not conscious of committing any sin. Except my wife, I have not known any woman. I never committed fornication by the uplifting of my eyes. I drank not wine to be led astray thereby. I coveted not any desirable thing that was my neighbor's. Guile arose not in my heart, a lie passed not through my lips. If any man were in distress, I joined my sighs with his, and I shared my bread with the poor. I wrought godliness. All my days I kept truth. I loved the Lord. Likewise also every man with all my heart. So do you also these things, my children, and every spirit of Belial shall flee from you, and no deed of wicked men shall rule over you, and every wild beast shall ye subdue, since you have with you the God of heaven and earth, and walk with men in singleness of heart. And having said these things, he commanded his sons that they should carry him up to Hebron, and bury him there in the cave with his fathers. And he stretched out his feet, and died at a good old age, with every limb sound, and with strength unabated. He slept the eternal sleep. The Testament of Zebulun, the sixth son of Jacob and Leah. 1. The copy of the words of Zebulun, which he enjoined on his sons before he died in the 114th year of his life, 2 years after the death of Joseph. And he said to them, Hearken to me, ye sons of Zebulun, attend to the words of your father. I, Zebulun, was born a good gift to my parents. For when I was born, my father was increased very exceedingly, both in flocks and herds, when with the straked rods he had his portion. I am not conscious that I have sinned all my days, save in thought. Nor yet do I remember that I have done any iniquity, except the sin of ignorance which I committed against Joseph. For I covenanted with my brethren not to tell my father what had been done. But I wept in secret many days on account of Joseph. For I feared my brethren, because they had all agreed that if anyone should declare the secret, he should be slain. But when they wished to kill him, I adjured them much with tears not to be guilty of this sin. 2. For Simeon and Gad came out against Joseph to kill him. And he said unto them with tears, Pity me, my brethren, have mercy upon the bowels of Jacob our father. Lay not upon me your hands to shed innocent blood, for I have not sinned against you. And if indeed I have sinned, with chastening chastise me, my brethren, but lay not upon me your hand, for the sake of Jacob our father. And as he spake these words, wailing as he did so, I was unable to bear his lamentations, and began to weep, and my liver was poured out, and all the substance of my bowels was loosed, and I wept with Joseph, and my heart sounded, and the joints of my body trembled, and I was not able to stand. And when Joseph saw me weeping with him, and them coming against him to slay him, he fled behind me, beseeching them. But meanwhile Reuben arose and said, Come, my brethren, let us not slay him, but let us cast him into one of these dry pits, which our fathers digged, and found no water. For this cause the Lord forbade that water should rise up in them, in order that Joseph should be preserved. And they did so until they sold him to the Ishmaelites. 3. And in this price I had no share, my children. But Simeon and Gad and 6 other of our brethren took the price of Joseph, and bought sandals for themselves and their wives and their children, saying, We will not eat of it, for it is the price of our brother's blood. But we will assuredly tread it under foot, because he said that he would be king over us, and so let us see what will become of his dreams. Therefore it is written in the writing of the law of Moses, that whosoever will not raise up seed to his brother, his sandal should be unloosed, and they should spit in his face. And the brethren of Joseph wished not that their brother should live. And the Lord loosed from them the sandal which they wore against Joseph their brother. For when they came into Egypt, they were unloosed by the servants of Joseph outside the gate. And so they made obeisance to Joseph, after the fashion of King Pharaoh. And not only did they make obeisance to him, but were spit upon also, falling down before him forthwith, and so they were put to shame before the Egyptians. For after this, the Egyptians heard all the evils that they had done to Joseph. 4. And after he was sold, my brothers sat down to eat and drink. But I, through pity for Joseph, did not eat, but watched the pit, since Judah feared lest Simeon, Dan, and Gad should rush off and slay him. But when they saw that I did not eat, they set me to watch him, till he was sold to the Ishmaelites. And when Reuben came, and heard that while he was away Joseph had been sold, he rent his garments, and mourning said, How shall I look on the face of my father Jacob? And he took the money and ran after the merchants. But as he failed to find them, he returned grieving. But the merchants had left the broad road, and marched through the troglodytes by a short cut. But Reuben was grieved, and ate no food that day. Dan therefore came to him and said, Weep not, neither grieve, for we have found what we can say to our father Jacob. Let us slay a kid of the goats, and dip in it the coat of Joseph, and let us send it to Jacob, saying, Know, is this the coat of thy son? And they did so, for they stripped off from Joseph his coat when they were selling him, and put upon him the garment of a slave. Now Simeon took the coat, and would not give it up, for he wished to rend it with his sword, for he was angry that Joseph lived, and that he had not slain him. Then we all rose up and said to him, If thou givest not up the coat, we will say to our father that thou alone didst this evil thing in Israel. And so he gave it unto them, and they did even as Dan had said. 5. And now, my children, I bid you to keep the commands of the Lord, and to show mercy to your neighbors, and to have compassion towards all, not towards men only, but also towards beasts. For all this thing's sake the Lord blessed me. And when all my brethren were sick, I escaped without sickness, for the Lord knoweth the purposes of each. Have therefore compassion in your hearts, my children, because even as a man doeth to his neighbor, even so also will the Lord do to him. For the sons of my brethren were sickening, and were dying on account of Joseph, because they showed not mercy in their hearts. But my sons were preserved without sickness, as ye know. And when I was in the land of Canaan, by the sea coast, I made a catch of fish for Jacob my father, and when many were choked in the sea, I continued unhurt. 6. I was the first to make a boat to sail upon the sea, for the Lord gave me understanding and wisdom therein. I let down a rudder behind it, and I stretched a sail upon another upright piece of wood in the midst. And I sailed therein along the shores, catching fish for the house of my father, until we came to Egypt. And through compassion I shared my catch with every stranger. And if a man were a stranger, or sick, or aged, I boiled the fish, and dressed them well, and offered them to all men, as every man had need, grieving with and having compassion upon them. Wherefore also the Lord satisfied me with abundance of fish when catching fish, for he that shareth with his neighbor receiveth manifold more from the Lord. For 5 years I caught fish, and gave thereof to every man whom I saw, and sufficed for all the house of my father. And in the summer I caught fish, and in the winter I kept sheep with my brethren. 7. Now I will declare unto you what I did. I saw a man in distress through nakedness in winter time, and had compassion upon him, and stole away a garment secretly from my father's house, and gave it to him who was in distress. Do you therefore, my children, from that which God bestoweth upon you, show compassion and mercy without hesitation to all men, and give to every man with a good heart. And if ye have not the wherewithal to give to him that needeth, have compassion for him in bowels of mercy. I know that my hand found not the wherewithal to give to him that needed, and I walked with him weeping for 7 furlongs, and my bowels yearned towards him in compassion. 8. Have therefore yourselves also, my children, compassion towards every man with mercy, that the Lord also may have compassion and mercy upon you. Because also in the last days God will send his compassion on the earth, and wheresoever he findeth bowels of mercy, he dwelleth in him. For in the degree in which man hath compassion upon his neighbours, in the same degree hath the Lord also upon him. And when we went down into Egypt, Joseph bore no malice against us, to whom, taking heed, do ye also, my children, approve yourselves without malice, and love one another, and do not set down in account, each one of you, evil against his brother. For this breaketh unity, and divideth all kindred, and troubleth the soul, and weareth away the countenance. 9. Observe therefore the waters, and know when they flow together, they sweep along stones, trees, earth, and other things. But if they are divided into many streams, the earth swalloweth them up, and they vanish away. So shall ye also be, if ye be divided. Be not ye therefore divided into 2 heads. For everything which the Lord made hath but 1 head, and 2 shoulders, 2 hands, 2 feet, and all the remaining members. For I have learnt in the writing of my fathers, that ye shall be divided in Israel, and ye shall follow 2 kings, and shall work every abomination, and your enemies shall lead you captive, and ye shall be evil entreated among the Gentiles with many infirmities and tribulations. And after these things ye shall remember the Lord, and repent, and he shall cause you to return. For he is merciful and compassionate, and he setteth not down in account evil to the sons of men, because they are flesh, and the spirits of deceit deceive them in all their deeds. And after these things there shall arise unto you the Lord himself, the light of righteousness, and healing and compassion shall be in his wings. He shall redeem all the captivity of the sons of men from Beliar, and every spirit of deceit shall be trodden down, and he shall bring back all the Gentiles into zeal for him. and ye shall return unto your land, and ye shall see him in Jerusalem for his name's sake. And again, through the wickedness of your works shall ye provoke him to anger, and ye shall be cast away by him unto the time of consummation. 10. And now, my children, grieve not that I am dying, nor be cast down in that I am coming to my end. For I shall rise again in the midst of you, as a ruler in the midst of his sons, and I shall rejoice in the midst of my tribe, as many as shall keep the law of the Lord and the commandments of Zebulun their father. But upon the ungodly shall the Lord bring eternal fire, and destroy them throughout all generations. But I am now hastening away to my rest, as did also my fathers. But do ye fear the Lord our God with all your strength all the days of your life. And when he'd said these things, he fell asleep at a good old age. And his sons laid him in a wooden coffin, and afterwards they carried him up and buried him in Hebron with his fathers. The Testament of Dan, the seventh son of Jacob and Bilhah. 1. The copy of the words of Dan which he spake to his sons in his last days, in the 125th year of his life. For he called together his family, and said, Hearken to my words, ye sons of Dan, and give heed to the words of your father. I have proved in my heart and in my whole life that truth with just dealing is good and well pleasing to God, and that lying and anger are evil, because they teach man all wickedness. I confess therefore this day to you, my children, that in my heart I resolved on the death of Joseph my brother, the true and good man. And I rejoiced that he was sold, because his father loved him more than us. For the spirit of jealousy and vainglory said to me, Thou thyself also art his son. And one of the spirits of Belial stirred me up, saying, Take this sword, and with it slay Joseph. So shall thy father love thee when he is dead. Now this is the spirit of anger that persuaded me to crush Joseph as a leopard crusheth a kid. But the God of my fathers did not suffer him to fall into my hands, so that I should find him alone and slay him, and cause a second tribe to be destroyed in Israel. 2. And now, my children, behold, I am dying. And I tell you of a truth, that unless ye keep yourselves from the spirit of lying and of anger, and love truth and long-suffering, ye shall perish. For anger is blindness, and does not suffer one to see the face of any man with truth. For though it be a father or a mother, he behaveth toward them as enemies. Though it be a brother, he knoweth him not. Though it be a prophet of the Lord, he disobeyeth him. Though a righteous man, he regardeth him not. Though a friend, he doth not acknowledge him. For the spirit of anger encompasseth him with the net of deceit, and blindeth his eyes, and through lying darkeneth his mind, and giveth him its own peculiar vision. And wherewith encompasseth it his eyes? With hatred of heart, so as to be envious of his brother. 3. For anger is an evil thing, my children, for it troubleth even the soul itself. And the body of the angry man it maketh its own, and over his soul it getteth the mastery. And it bestoweth upon the body power that it may work all iniquity. And when the body does all these things, the soul justifieth what is done, since it seeth not aright. Therefore he that is wrathful, if he be a mighty man, hath a threefold power in his anger, one by the help of his servants, and a second by his wealth, whereby he persuadeth and overcometh wrongfully, and thirdly, having his own natural power, he worketh thereby the evil. And though the wrathful man be weak, yet hath he a power twofold of that which is by nature. For wrath ever aideth such in lawlessness. This spirit goeth always with lying at the right hand of Satan, that with cruelty and lying his works may be wrought. 4. Understand ye therefore the power of wrath, that it is vain. For it first of all giveth provocation by word, then by deeds it strengtheneth him who is angry, and with sharp losses disturbeth his mind, and so stirreth up with great wrath his soul. Therefore, when any one speaketh against you, be not ye moved to anger. And if any man praiseth you as holy men, be not uplifted. Be not moved either to delight or to disgust. For first it pleaseth the hearing, and so maketh the mind keen to perceive the grounds for provocation. And then, being enraged, he thinketh that he is justly angry. If ye fall into any loss or ruin, my children, be not afflicted. For this very spirit maketh a man desire that which is perishable, in order that he may be enraged through the affliction. And if ye suffer loss voluntarily or involuntarily, be not vexed, for from vexation ariseth wrath with lying. Moreover, a twofold mischief is wrath with lying, and they assist one another in order to disturb the heart. And when the soul is continually disturbed, the Lord departeth from it, and Beliar ruleth over it. 5. Observe therefore, my children, the commandments of the Lord, and keep his law. Depart from wrath, and hate lying, that the Lord may dwell among you, and Beliar may flee from you. Speak truth, each one with his neighbor, so shall ye not fall into wrath and confusion. But ye shall be in peace, having the God of peace. So shall no war prevail over you. Love the Lord through all your life, and one another with a true heart. I know that in the last days ye shall depart from the Lord, and he shall provoke Levi unto anger, and fight against Judah. But he shall not prevail against them. For an angel of the Lord shall guide them both. For by them shall Israel stand. And whensoever ye depart from the Lord, ye shall walk in all evil, and work the abominations of the Gentiles, going or whoring after women of the lawless ones, while with all wickedness the spirits of wickedness work in you. For I have read in the book of Enoch the righteous, that your prince is Satan, and that all the spirits of wickedness and pride will conspire to attend constantly on the sons of Levi, to cause them to sin before the Lord. And my sons will draw near to Levi, and sin with them in all things. And the sons of Judah will be covetous, plundering other men's goods like lions. Therefore shall he be led away with them into captivity, and there shall he receive all the plagues of Egypt and all the evils of the Gentiles. And so when ye return to the Lord, ye shall obtain mercy, and he shall bring you into his sanctuary, and he shall give you peace. And there shall arise unto you from the tribe of Judah and of Levi the salvation of the Lord. And he shall make war against Beliar, and execute an everlasting vengeance on our enemies. And the captivity shall he take from Beliar the souls of the saints, and turn disobedient hearts unto the Lord, and give to them that call upon him eternal peace. And the saints shall rest in Eden, and in the new Jerusalem shall the righteous rejoice, and it shall be unto the glory of God forever. And no longer shall Jerusalem endure desolation, nor Israel be led captive, for the Lord shall be in the midst of it, living amongst men, and the Holy One of Israel shall reign over it in humility and in poverty, and he who believeth on him shall reign amongst men in truth. 6. And now fear the Lord, my children, and beware of Satan and his spirits. Draw near unto God and unto the angel that intercedeth for you, for he is a mediator between God and man, and for the peace of Israel he shall stand up against the kingdom of the enemy. Therefore is the enemy eager to destroy all that call upon the Lord. For he knoweth that upon the day on which Israel shall repent, the kingdom of the enemy shall be brought to an end. For the very angel of peace shall strengthen Israel, that it fall not into the extremity of evil. And it shall be in the time of the lawlessness of Israel that the Lord will not depart from them, but will transform them into a nation that doeth his will. For none of the angels will be equal unto him. And his name shall be in every place in Israel, and among the Gentiles. Keep therefore yourselves, my children, from every evil work, and cast away wrath and all lying, and love truth and long-suffering. And the things which ye have heard from your father, do ye also impart to your children, that the Saviour of the Gentiles may receive you. For he is true and long-suffering, meek and lowly, and teacheth by his works the law of God. Depart therefore from all unrighteousness, and cleave unto the righteousness of God, and your race will be saved forever. And bury me near my fathers. 7. And when he'd said these things, he kissed them, and fell asleep at a good old age. And his sons buried him. And after that they carried up his bones, and placed them near Abraham and Isaac and Jacob. Nevertheless, Dan prophesied unto them that they should forget their God, and should be alienated from the land of their inheritance, and from the race of Israel, and from the family of their seed. The Testament of Naphtali, the 8th son of Jacob and Bilhah. 1. The copy of the Testament of Naphtali, which he ordained at the time of his death, in the 130th year of his life, when his sons were gathered together in the 7th month on the 1st day of the month, while still in good health, he made them a feast of food and wine. And after he was awake in the morning, he said to them, I am dying. And they believed him not. And as he glorified the Lord, he grew strong, and said that after yesterday's feast he should die. And he began to say, Hear, my children, ye sons of Naphtali. Hear the words of your father. I was born from Bilhah, and because Rachel dealt craftily, and gave Bilhah in place of herself to Jacob, and she conceived and bare me upon Rachel's knees, therefore she called my name Naphtali. For Rachel loved me very much, because I was born upon her lap. And when I was still young, she was wont to kiss me and say, May I have a brother of thine from mine own womb like unto thee. Whence also Joseph was like unto me in all things, according to the prayers of Rachel. Now my mother was Bilhah, daughter of Rutheus, the brother of Deborah, Rebekah's nurse, who was born on one and the selfsame day with Rachel. And Rutheus was of the family of Abraham, a Chaldean, God-fearing, freeborn, and noble. And he was taken captive and was bought by Laban, and he gave him Una his handmaid to wife, and she bore a daughter, and called her name Zilpah, after the name of the village in which she had been taken captive. And next she bore Bilhah, saying, My daughter hastens after what is new, for immediately that she was born, she seized the breast and hastened to suck it. 2. And I was swift on my feet like the deer, and my father Jacob appointed me for all messages, and as a deer did he give me his blessing. For as the potter knoweth the vessel, how much it is to contain, and bringeth clay accordingly, so also doth the Lord make the body after the likeness of the Spirit. And according to the capacity of the body doth he implant the Spirit. And the one does not fall short of the other by a third part of a hair. For by weight and measure and rule was all the creation made. And as the potter knoweth the use of each vessel, what it is meet for, so also doth the Lord know the body, how far it will persist in goodness, and when it beginneth in evil. For there is no inclination or thought which the Lord knoweth not, for he created every man after his own image. As a man's strength, so also is his work, and as his mind, so also is his skill, and as his purpose, so also is his achievement, and as his heart, so also is his mouth, as his eye, so also is his sleep, as his soul, so also is his word, either in the law of the Lord, or in the works of Beliar. And as there is a division between light and darkness, between seeing and hearing, so also is there a division between man, and between woman and woman. And it is not to be said that the one is like the other, either in face or in mind. For God made all things good in their order, the 5 senses in the head, and he joined on the neck to the head, adding to it the hair also for comeliness and glory, then the heart for understanding, the belly for excrement, and the stomach for grinding, the windpipe for taking in the breath, the liver for wrath, the gall for bitterness, the spleen for laughter, the reins for prudence, the muscles of the loins for power, the lungs for drawing in, the loins for strength, and so forth. So then, my children, let all your works be done in order, with good intent in the fear of God, and do nothing disorderly in scorn or out of its due season. For if thou bid the eye to hear, it cannot. So neither, while ye are in darkness, can ye do the works of light. 3. Be ye therefore not eager to corrupt your doings through covetousness or with vain thoughts to beguile your souls. Because if ye keep silence in purity of heart, ye shall understand how to hold fast the will of God, and to cast away the will of Beliar. Sun and moon and stars change not their order, so do ye also change not the law of God in the disorderliness of your doings. The Gentiles went astray, and forsook the Lord, and changed their order, and obeyed stocks and stones, spirits of deceit. But ye shall not be so, my children, recognizing in the firmament, in the earth, and in the sea, and in all created things, the Lord who made all things, that ye become not as Sodom, which changed the order of nature. In like manner the watchers also changed the order of their nature, whom the Lord cursed at the flood, on whose account he made the earth without inhabitants and fruitless. These things I say unto you, my children, for I have read in the writing of Enoch, that ye yourselves also shall depart from the Lord, walking according to all the lawlessness of the Gentiles, and he shall do according to all the wickedness of Sodom. And the Lord shall bring captivity upon you, and there shall he serve your enemies. And he shall be bowed down with every affliction and tribulation until the Lord have consumed you all. And after ye have become minished and made few, ye shall return and acknowledge the Lord your God, and he shall bring you back into your land according to his abundant mercy. And it shall be that after they come into the land of their fathers, they shall again forget the Lord, and become ungodly. And the Lord shall scatter them upon the face of all the earth, until the compassion of the Lord shall come, a man working righteousness and working mercy unto all them that are afar off, and to them that are near. 4. For in the 40th year of my life I saw a vision on the Mount of Olives on the east of Jerusalem, that the sun and the moon were standing still. And behold, Isaac, the father of my father, said to us, Run and lay hold of them, each one according to his strength, and to him that seizeth them will the sun and moon belong. And we all of us ran together, and Levi laid hold of the sun, and Judah outstripped the others, and seized the moon, and they were both of them lifted up with them. And when Levi became as a son, lo, a certain young man gave to him 12 branches of palm, and Judah was bright as the moon, and under their feet were 12 rays. And the two, Levi and Judah, ran and lay hold of them. And a bull upon the earth, with 2 great horns, and an eagle's wings upon its back. And we wished to seize him, but could not. But Joseph came and seized him, and ascended up with him on high. And I saw, for I was there, and behold, a holy writing appeared to us, saying, Assyrians, Medes, Persians, Chaldeans, Syrians shall possess in captivity the 12 tribes of Israel. 5. And again, after 7 days, I saw our father Jacob standing by the sea of Jamnia, and we were with him. And behold, there came a ship sailing by, without sailors or pilot. And it was written upon the ship of Jacob. And our father said to us, Come, let us embark on our ship. And when he'd gone on board, there arose a vehement storm, and a mighty tempest of wind, and our father, who was holding the helm, departed from us. And we, being tossed with the tempest, were borne along over the sea, and the ship was filled with water, and was pounded by mighty waves, until it was broken up. And Joseph fled away upon a little boat, and we were all divided upon 9 planks, and Levi and Judah were together, and we were all scattered unto the ends of the earth. Then Levi, girt about with sackcloth, prayed for us all unto the Lord. And when the storm ceased, the ship reached the land as it were in peace. And our father came, and we all rejoiced with one accord. 6. These 2 dreams I told to my father, and he said to me, These things must be fulfilled in their season, after that Israel hath endured many things. Then my father saith to me, I believe God that Joseph liveth, for I see always that the Lord numbereth him with you. And he said, weeping, Ah me, my son Joseph, thou livest, though I behold thee not, and thou seest not Jacob that begat thee. He caused me also therefore to weep by these words, and I burned in my heart to declare that Joseph had been sold, but I feared my brethren. 7. And lo, my children, I have shown unto you the last times, how everything shall come to pass in Israel. Do ye also therefore charge your children that they be united to Levi and to Judah, for through them shall salvation arise unto Israel, and in them shall Jacob be blessed. For through their tribes shall God appear, dwelling among men on earth, to save the race of Israel, and to gather together the righteous from amongst the Gentiles. If ye work that which is good, my children, both men and angels shall bless you. And God shall be glorified among the Gentiles through you, and the devil shall flee from you, and the wild beast shall fear you, and the Lord shall love you, and the angels shall cleave to you. As a man who's trained his child well is kept in kindly remembrance, so also for a good work there is a good remembrance before God. But him that doeth not that which is good, both angels and men shall curse, and God shall be dishonored among the Gentiles through him, and the devil shall make him as his own peculiar instrument, and every wild beast shall master him, and the Lord shall hate him. For the commandments of the law are twofold, and through prudence must they be fulfilled. For there is a season for a man to embrace his wife, and a season to abstain therefrom for his prayer. So then there are 2 commandments, and unless they be done in due order, they bring very great sin upon men. So also it is with the other commandments. Be ye therefore wise in God, my children, and prudent, understanding the order of his commandments, and the laws of every word, that the Lord may love you. 8. And when he had charged them with many such words, he exhorted them that they should remove his bones to Hebron, and that they should bury him with his fathers. And when he had eaten and drunken with a merry heart, he covered his face and died. And his sons did according to all that Naphtali their father had commanded them. The Testament of Gad, the 9th son of Jacob and Zilpah. 1. The copy of the Testament of Gad, what things he spake unto his sons in the 125th year of his life, saying unto them, Hearken, my children, I was the 9th son born to Jacob, and I was valiant in keeping the flocks. Accordingly, I guarded at night the flock, and whenever the lion came, or the wolf, or any wild beast against the fold, I pursued it, and overtaking it, I seized its foot with my hand, and hurled it about a stone's throw, and so killed it. Now Joseph my brother was feeding the flock with us for upwards of 30 days. And being young, he fell sick by reason of the heat. And he returned to Hebron to our father, who made him lie down near him, because he loved him greatly. And Joseph told our father that the sons of Zilpah and Bilhah were slaying the best of the flock, and eating them against the judgment of Reuben and Judah. For he saw that I had delivered a lamb out of the mouth of a bear, and put the bear to death, but had slain the lamb, being grieved concerning it that it could not live, and that we had eaten it. And regarding this matter I was wroth with Joseph until the day that he was sold, and the spirit of hatred was in me, and I wished not either to hear of Joseph with the ears, or see him with the eyes, because he rebuked us to our faces, saying that we were eating of the flock without Judah. But whatsoever things he told our father, he believed him. 2. I confess now my sin, my children, that oftentimes I wished to kill him, because I hated him from my heart. Moreover, I hated him yet more for his dreams, and I wished to lick him out of the land of the living, even as an ox licketh up the grass of the field. Therefore I and Simeon sold him to the Ishmaelites for 30 pieces of gold, and 10 of them we hid, and showed the 20 to our brethren. And thus, through covetousness, we were bent on slaying him. And the God of my fathers delivered him from my hands, that I should not work lawlessness in Israel. 3. And now, my children, hearken to the words of truth, to work righteousness, and all the law of the Most High. And go not astray through the spirit of hatred, for it is evil in all the doings of men. Whatsoever a man doeth, the hater abominateth him. And though a man worketh the law of the Lord, he praiseth him not. Though a man feareth the Lord, and taketh pleasure in that which is righteous, he loveth him not. He dispraiseth the truth, he envieth him that prospereth, he welcometh evil speaking, he loveth arrogance. For hatred blindeth his soul, as I also then looked on Joseph. 4. Beware, therefore, my children, of hatred, for it worketh lawlessness even against the Lord himself. For it will not hear the words of his commandments concerning the loving of one's neighbor, and it sinneth against God. For if a brother stumble, it delighteth immediately to proclaim it to all men, and is urgent that he should be judged for it, and be punished, and be put to death. And if it be a servant, it stirreth him up against his master, and with every affliction it deviseth against him, if possibly he can be put to death. For hatred worketh with envy also against them that prosper. So long as it heareth of or seeth their success, it always languisheth. For as love would quicken even the dead, and would call back them that are condemned to die, so hatred would slay the living, and those that had sinned venially it would not suffer to live. For the spirit of hatred worketh together with Satan through hastiness of spirit in all things to men's death. But the spirit of love worketh together with the law of God in long-suffering unto the salvation of men. 5. Hatred therefore is evil, for it constantly mateth with lying, speaking against the truth. And it maketh small things to be great, and causeth the light to be darkness, and calleth the sweet bitter, and teacheth slander, and kindleth wrath, and stirreth up war, and violence, and all covetousness. It filleth the heart with evils and devilish poison. These things therefore I say to you from experience, my children, that ye may drive forth hatred, which is of the devil, and cleave to the love of God. Righteousness casteth out hatred. Humility destroyeth envy. For he that is just and humble is ashamed to do what is unjust, being reproved not of another, but of his own heart, because the Lord looketh on his inclination. He speaketh not against a holy man, because the fear of God overcometh hatred. For fearing lest he should offend the Lord, he will not do wrong to any man, even in thought. These things I learned at last, after I had repented, concerning Joseph. For true repentance after a godly sort destroyeth ignorance, and driveth away darkness, and enlighteneth the eyes, and giveth knowledge to the soul, and leadeth the mind to salvation. And those things which it had not learnt from man, it knoweth through repentance. For God brought upon me a disease of the liver, and had not the prayers of Jacob my father succoured me, it had hardly failed, but my spirit had departed. For by what things a man transgresseth, by the same also is he punished. Since therefore my liver was set mercilessly against Joseph, in my liver too I suffered mercilessly, and was judged for 11 months, for so long a time as I had been angry against Joseph. 6. And now, my children, I exhort you, love ye each one his brother, and put away hatred from your hearts. Love one another in deed and in word and in the inclination of the soul. For in the presence of my father I spake peaceably to Joseph, and when I had gone out, the spirit of hatred darkened my mind, and stirred up my soul to slay him. Love ye therefore one another from the heart, and if a man sin against thee, cast forth the poison of hate, and speak peaceably to him, and in thy soul hold not guile. And if he confess and repent, forgive him. But if he deny it, do not get into a passion with him, lest, catching the poison from thee, he take to swearing, and so thou sin doubly. Let not another man hear thy secrets when engaged in legal strife, lest he come to hate thee, and become thy enemy, and commit a great sin against thee. For ofttimes he addresseth thee guilefully, or busieth himself about thee with wicked intent. And though he deny it, and yet have a sense of shame when reproved, give over reproving him. For he who denieth may repent, so as not again to wrong thee, yea, he may also honour thee, and fear, and be at peace with thee. And if he be shameless, and persist in his wrongdoing, even so forgive him from the heart, and leave to God the avenging. 7. If a man prospereth more than you, do not be vexed, but pray also for him, that he may have perfect prosperity, for so it is expedient for you. And if he be further exalted, be not envious of him, remembering that all flesh shall die, and offer praise to God, who giveth things good and profitable to all men. Seek out the judgments of the Lord, and thy mind will rest and be at peace. And though a man become rich by evil means, even as Esau, the brother of my father, be not jealous, but wait for the end of the Lord. For if he taketh away from a man wealth gotten by evil means, he forgiveth him if he repent. But the unrepentant is reserved for eternal punishment. For the poor man, if free from envy, he pleaseth the Lord in all things, is blessed beyond all men, because he hath not the travail of vain men. Put away therefore jealousy from your souls, and love one another with uprightness of heart. 8. Do ye also therefore tell these things to your children, that they honor Judah and Levi, for from them shall the Lord raise up salvation to Israel. For I know that at the last your children shall depart from him, and shall walk in all wickedness and affliction and corruption before the Lord. And when he rested for a little while, he said again, My children, obey your father, and bury me near to my fathers. And he drew up his feet and fell asleep in peace. And after 5 years they carried him up to Hebron and laid him with his fathers. The Testament of Asher, the 10th son of Jacob and Zilpah. 1. The copy of the Testament of Asher, what things he spake to his sons in the 125th year of his life. For while he was still in health, he said to them, Hearken, ye children of Asher, to your father, and I will declare to you all that is upright in the sight of the Lord. 2 ways hath God given to the sons of men, and 2 inclinations, and 2 kinds of action, and 2 modes of action, and 2 issues. Therefore all things are by twos, one over against the other. For there are 2 ways of good and evil, and with these are the 2 inclinations in our breasts, discriminating them. Therefore if the soul take pleasure in the good inclination, all its actions are in righteousness, and if it sin, it straightway repenteth. For having its thoughts set upon righteousness, and casting away wickedness, it straightway overthroweth the evil, and uprooteth the sin. But if it incline to the evil inclination, all its actions are in wickedness, and it driveth away the good, and cleaveth to the evil, and is ruled by Beliar. Even though it work what is good, he perverteth it to evil. For whenever it beginneth to do good, he forceth the issue of the action into evil for him, seeing that the treasure of the inclination is filled with an evil spirit. 2. A person then may with words help the good for the sake of the evil, yet the issue of the action leadeth to mischief. There is a man who showeth no